From the Clark Athletic Center on the campus of UMass Boston, we've got weeknight basketball, a non-conference matchup between two teams off to pretty solid starts this season, the UMass Boston Beacons and the Emmanuel College Saints. Hi, everybody. Alongside Seth Orensky, Bill Spalding, glad to be with you. Beacons 5-3, Saints 6-3. These are two teams that are really athletic and somewhat similar when you look at how they're constructed.
You're seeing two deep teams. Nobody scores more than 12, 13 points per game. Very small but athletic. The biggest guys on these teams don't play a lot of minutes. You're going to see 10, 11 guys for both sides, and it's really going to be a track meet and a very physical battle on the glass with two teams that love to get on the offensive boards.
You get the feeling this is going to be a close game, a fun game, and an up and down the floor game. We'll preview it all. We'll get you set for tip-off when we come back here on the Beacons Broadcast Network. We're back at the Clark Athletic Center getting set for a non-conference game between Emmanuel College and UMass Boston, again with Seth Orensky, Bill Spalding. First ever meeting between these two schools, which might be surprising when you consider they're not separated by all that many miles. It's not surprising that they're meeting for the first time now, though, because these two head coaches for UMass Boston, Jason Harris, and the first-year head coach, Danny Lawson, for Emmanuel College, they go back to their time at Long Island.
Yeah, I was talking to Jason Harris. Danny Lawson took over as director of basketball ops at LIU Brooklyn right after Jason Harris became an assistant. Those guys were a little bit of the good fellas on that staff. Under head coach John Perry, who's actually at Southern New Hampshire this year, the Beacons scrimmage Southern New Hampshire. So they go back a long ways. And Lawson, his first year at Emmanuel, also remember, Emmanuel wasn't a boys' school until the early 2000s. So the history in men's basketball doesn't go quite as far back as it does on the women's side, where their women's coach just won his 815th game last night.
And Lawson's already done a huge job. We'll talk more about him and the turnaround in his first year here with Emmanuel College. Big matchup today. Seth, you mentioned that these are two small teams, but we're going to talk about a couple of their post players. Let's start with UMass Boston, and Jabaris Hill has been off to just a tremendous start to his career.
Last time he was here, a career-high 30 points and 8 rebounds, just took over against Castleton University. He's a smaller big man that excels at the Division III level because he makes up for his lack of height. 6'4" isn't that small, but it is against traditional post players. But he's so long and so athletic. He's a bruiser on the boards. Almost half of his 7.7 rebounds per game come on the offensive glass. And he's really adapted to the game well, is very good in transition, and is one of the best dunkers that I've seen here at UMass Boston the last 6 years.
He has a tough matchup against Marcus Fox of Emmanuel, coming off a really good game, 21 points, 11 rebounds in the win against Wentworth for the Saints.
Well, looking at the scouting report, you're looking at a similar player. High percentage, a little bit of a bulldog down low. He's 6'4", 230, so it's a little bit of pounds on the freshman for the Beacons, but he's going to be another scrapper, very aggressive on the offensive boards. He has 3 offensive boards per game, so you're looking at 2 guys who do a lot of damage on the offensive glass.
Fox may have more girth, but Hill is pretty thickly built, particularly for a college freshman. Should be a lot of fun, and for more on today's matchup, let's hear now from the Beacon head coach, Jason Harris.
Joined by UMass Boston men's basketball head coach Jason Harris for our Beacons review and preview. Coach, a tough one on the road at Western Connecticut State on Saturday. Got off to a great start, but a little bit of an inconsistent offense, and you fell just short. What's the takeaway from that one, in that you were better offensively to start, but just couldn't finish it the same way?
You know, it's going to take 40 minutes, whether it's at home or on the road. You know, obviously it's a tough place to play. I was excited with the way we started the game after the long bus ride and all that, but we just have to be more consistent ourselves. We have to execute better. They did a good job of kind of speeding us up a little bit, something that nobody's really done this year, and so credit to those guys. But I think we just got to got to look to execute, look to finish around the hoop, and take care of the ball.
Tonight you play an Emmanuel team that's red hot offensively, 80-plus their last 5 games. They shoot the three extremely well, and they're very good on the offensive glass. What is your focus defensively, and what kind of style would you like this game to end up as?
Obviously, like you said, they shoot the three, and it's such a weapon for them. They don't have a true point guard per se, but about 4 or 5 guys that average around 3 assists. They move the ball so well, and then when you fall asleep, that's when they hit one of those shooters, and they're so deadly. They've been down 16 points in 3 of their wins, and they were down huge to Emerson. Came back and I think took the lead late and weren't able to take the lead or get the win, but they're just so dangerous with that 3 ball. So defensively, you have to take that away, have to pressure them, and can't allow them to have comfort and run their offense. At the same time, have to contain the ball.
On paper, it kind of looks like a matchup of very similar teams. You guys are both very deep. You don't have a traditional big man that you constantly feed. How do you dictate this game to make it a UMass Boston game versus an Emmanuel game?
Well, I think we got to get stops first so we can rebound and run. We got to get easy points in transition. That's something that if we're not getting, it's going to be tough to score for us. So we got to get points in transition. Like I said, we're going to have to crash the offensive glass. We're going to have to get fouled and make them. And then, like I said, take care of the ball and take the right threes. Something that we've kind of struggled with our shot selection and our decision making.
So that's the Beacon head man, Jason Harris, as UMass Boston gets set to take on Emmanuel College. 5-3 Beacons, 6-3 Saints. So let's take a look at today's head-to-head matchup in terms of stats for these two teams. Talked about similar profiles. UMass Boston averaging 75.5 a game. Emmanuel really runs. They're averaging 82 a game, which only puts them 5th in their GNAC conference. A very high-scoring league out of conference so far. We mentioned both teams small, but boy, do they rebound well. Both sides better than plus 11 in the rebounding margin this year.
Well, the Beacons in their opener took on a pretty decently sized Bridgewater State team here at home, and they had over 60 rebounds, including 30-plus offensive boards. Kind of stunned a Bridgewater State team that beat the Beacons twice a season ago. This UMass Boston team is relentless. It's not just going to be the Jabaris Hill and Malik Lorquettes of the world. The entire team gang rebounds, especially on the offensive end. You'll see one guy leak back on defense, but the Mitchell twins, Mike Boyd, they're pretty good rebounders, especially for their size. Kevin Nunez, another guy listed as a guard who rebounds exceptionally well.
When you're a little bit smaller, you need guards who can rebound, particularly at this level. So look at the individual leaders. You'll see that for both these teams, it is not a one-man show. They get there with a lot of balance top to bottom. Leading scorer for UMass Boston averages only 11.9 points a game. That's Jabaris Hill, and that's mostly thanks to the 32 he scored against Castleton last week. Emmett Riddick averaging 12.8 points to lead the way for Emmanuel College. But you look at both these teams, they have at least 4 or 5 guys who average 8 or 9 points plus per game, so defense really can't hone in on anybody.
UMass Boston's improving on the defensive end. The offensive end has not been consistent. At home, they've been exceptional, outscoring their opponents by nearly 20 points per game, but on the road, they haven't had a go-to scorer. Mike Boyd and Charles Mitchell, all rookie honorees a year ago. They've had some really good games. They've also had some off games, so the Beacons haven't found that go-to scorer, so it's really been scoring by committee, and that makes it difficult for the opposition because you can't really game plan for 1 or 2 players. One
major number to keep an eye on if this game is close is the disparity in free throw percentage. Beacons have really struggled last in Little East Conference at 54.7% from the free throw line so far this year. On the flip side, Emmanuel College is shooting 76.3% from the free throw line. That puts them first in the GNAC. Let's look at the head coaching match. We mentioned how these two head coaches know each other going back to their days when they were both on the staff at Long Island, Brooklyn. First year for Danny Lawson. He's took a team that won 3 games last year, already doubled it. Lawson's resume also includes an NBA championship in 2008 when he was an assistant video coordinator with the Celtics. And again, he overlapped with Beacon head coach Jason Harris, who continues to build this program. Jason now in his 4th year as the UMass Boston head coach. He's led Beacons to back-to-back Little East Conference semifinals throughout his tenure as well. Let's run you through the starting lineups, and we will start with Emmanuel College. Saints coming in at 6-3. Zach Crisafulli, Isaiah Ruffin, and Emmett Riddick are the guards. Jack Mulder and Marcus Fox down low. Riddick's played really well in his junior season, averaging nearly 13 points per game. And now the starting lineup for the Beacons.
Alex Sanchez, redshirt sophomore, point guard, Salem, Massachusetts. Jabaris Hill, freshman forward from UMass.
Charlie Mitchell, sophomore, point guard, Roxbury, Mass.
Michael Boyd, sophomore, shooting guard, Malden, Mass.
Mark Monroe, junior, center, Quincy, Massachusetts.
All right, there's been some movement in the Beacons lineup throughout this season. This is the 5 coming out tonight. For now, we'll step aside the national anthem. When we come back, we'll get you set for game action between the Beacons and the Saints.
We want to do theater that is responsible. We want to do music that is evocative and elevates us. We want to do dance that reflects urban movement and connection. I've been a practicing designer for the last 30 years. My specialty is costumes. This space is fantastic. This is our recital hall, and it's so outstanding that many people compare it to the symphony hall because the quality of sound is like nothing in town. And there is the painting studio, the sculpture studio, the digital studio. The type of students that we're getting, they're more competitive. They're looking for this kind of facilities. They look at other private colleges, but then decide to come here. Boston is filled with regional theaters, so our students can actually apply what they're learning and build a portfolio. And it's so great to see their names on the programs, and people may not know they're from UMass Boston, but eventually as they graduate and they begin to get professional jobs and you see their bios, that's going to be UMass Boston. It's going to be the stamp all over. UMass Boston represents what true liberal arts is about. In my class, you have students who are psychologists, business, chemistry. The final goal is that we have well-rounded global citizens graduating from UMass Boston.
About ready to go. UMass Boston and Emmanuel College. Beacons 5-3, Saints 6-3. Thanks so much for joining us on this Tuesday evening in Boston with Seth Orensky. I'm Bill Spalding. Seth, UMass Boston undefeated so far in the non-conference portion of the schedule, 4-0 after a 1-3 start in 4 consecutive conference games. Beacons back to the non-conference for the week. They'll also take on Wentworth Friday. Chance to build momentum heading into the winter break where they'll come out of the chute after a non-conference game against Suffolk into the heavy part of the conference schedule.
Well, the Beacons have had a lot of success in non-conference, but they've also played some easier teams. I think Jason Harris would admit that. MIT was supposed to be that first game of the season. MIT had a scheduling conflict, so they came off the schedule. The Beacons, though, have gone through the grinder in conference play. They've already played the top 2 teams on the road. Western Connecticut State, a really tough road trip, and also a pretty good team this year under a new head coach. So the Beacons have faced some difficult competition. They're going to play an Emmanuel team today that started a little slow under Danny Lawson offensively, but they've picked it up. I think it's 6 straight games with 80-plus points. They're playing really well offensively. They're coming off a nice win over Wentworth. And you talked about the Beacons changing up their lineups. Emmanuel started the same 5 guys in all 10 games this season, and that is a huge help when you can trust those guys, maybe not just to start a game, but probably to finish off the game as well.
Emmanuel's won 3 straight non-conference games, and that's worth noting because Emmanuel won 3 total games last season. 3-22, went through a coaching change, brought Danny Lawson in, and very quickly things have changed for the Saints coaching. Part of the reason why. The other part, they brought basically everybody back from last year as well. These are 2 teams, though, that are still incredibly young. Only 1 senior in the starting lineup for Emmanuel. For UMass Boston, you look at the lineup, 2 juniors in Sanchez and Monroe, though Monroe is a transfer. And you throw sophomores Mitchell and Boyd, the freshman Hill. There really are no seniors involved in the heavy portion of the playing rotation for UMass Boston. The majority are still underclassmen.
And Jason Harris has emphasized time and time again in practice, there's only one guy on this Beacons roster who has played in each of the past 2 seasons for UMass Boston. That's Dason Sinelli, who's having a bit of a down year just in trying to figure out his role. He was a starter last year, and now he's playing behind a guy who's a little bit more athletic than him and stronger than him in Jabaris Hill, but Dason's still a key contributor. This Beacons team is not going to look the same a month from now as they look right now.
Beacons in white, Emmanuel in blue. Away we go. Good feed. Isaiah Ruffin sets up Marcus Fox for an early 2. Saints off and running. They average more than 80 points a game.
That's a really nice feed, but the Beacons can't give the double there. Jabaris Hill has to be able to slow down his man. Monroe came over because he thought the freshman had been beat.
Michael Boyd attacks for the Beacons. Nearly traveled. Works it back out to Alex Sanchez. UMass Boston coming off its lowest offensive output of the season, just 50 points in a 57-50 loss at Western Connecticut State. They're averaging 75.5 a game. Sanchez, tough runner, got it to go late in the shot clock.
Sanchez had been coming off the bench to start the season. He's an electric player, and right now Coach Harris is tinkering, trying to keep that starting group and the bench group productive offensively because that's something they've struggled with.
Clean look outside. Fox off the mark. Good rebound from Charlie Mitchell. You mentioned how he's a really good rebounder at his size. Boyd in transition for three. Doesn't go. Monroe got his hand on the rebound and Ruffin squeezes it.
Now that looked like it might have gone off of the foot of Ruffin out of bounds, but the referee right there said it stayed in.
Fox beneath the tin draws an early foul on Jabaris Hill. And if the Saints can effectively get Hill into foul trouble, that'll give them a big advantage early.
Yeah, that would certainly be a blow to the Beacons. But UMass Boston does have some size off the bench. In previous years, when a Sam Freeman or a Dan Powers got in foul trouble, it was a problem. This year, you have Malik Lorquette, you have Julius Goins, and Rob Nascimento doesn't play a lot of minutes, but he does give you a big body off the bench behind Mark Monroe.
Marcus Fox has scored the first three for Emmanuel, sophomore from Danbury, Connecticut. He is 9th in the GNAC conference in rebounding, 8th in field goal percentage. And he splits a pair at the line.
Pretty good free throw shooter, too. He's now 24 of 30 for the season.
It's a theme for Emmanuel. They lead the GNAC in free throw shooting at 76.3%. Of course, the Beacons last in the Little East, 54% in a close game. That could loom really big today.
Other big thing is three-point shooting. Emmanuel's hit over 10 threes 4 different times. The Beacons have been ice cold this year from distance.
Good start for Alex Sanchez, providing instant energy to start this game. Early 4-3 UMass Boston lead. Off the screen, Riddick. His leading scorer, Emmett Riddick, didn't go. Jack Mulder finds the rebound. His point guard, Zachary Crisafulli, rattles out the jumper, and Monroe seals off for the physical rebound.
Yeah, he's done a nice job on the boards, and that's really what the Beacons want from him. Be effective on the boards, play some good defense, and when you get those looks down low from your teammates, be able to capitalize on those bunnies.
Two teams that are both plus 11 in rebounding margin. Beacons lead the Little East in rebounding. Emmanuel's second in the GNAC in rebounding. Sophomore Charlie Mitchell, 5 to shoot. Good pass down low. Hill left it. Short tip back doesn't go. So 2 early misses for Hill, who enters as the Little East leader, shooting 62% this season.
That was a tough play, though, for Hill. His back was turned. He was spinning the wrong way and just couldn't quite get enough. Then he got the tip, but again, it was contested. Emmanuel's not going to give UMass Boston any easy chances.
Here's Fox again. Defense comes to him. Long jumper, Zach Crisafulli got it over the top of the Beacon zone. It's a zone with a lot of man-to-man principles, but shoot over the top of it, you can start to stretch it a bit.
Crisafulli, a very good shooter, but just 6 threes on the season, so he wanted to take that one dribble in. Feels a little bit more comfortable inside the three-point line.
Sanchez again. There's his first miss and a high rebound. Ruffin skying over Hill. Oh, would have had a good look in transition for Mulder, but he's called for traveling. Your referees today, Eddie Colon, Stephen Cassell, and Casey Kett. First substitution of the day goes UMass Boston's way. Beacons will rotate in.
Malik Lorquette wearing 30.
Wearing number 30 instead of number 23, you're right. Trying to keep us on our toes up here.
Yeah, just a little bit of an equipment issue that Lorquette's had to deal with here in the early half of the season.
So Lorquette up high. Out to Charlie Mitchell. Here's Hill. Had the highs and lows of a freshman that you expect over the last 2 games. 32 against Castleton, followed by just 2 points against Western Connecticut State. Boyd with the rainmaker puts the Beacons back ahead.
Boyd takes a lot of those really long twos that are low percentage shot for most players, but that's almost like a layup to him. He just feels so comfortable at that distance.
Analytics would tell you those aren't the best shots, but if they go down for you, you take them.
I'm sure that Jason Harris is A-okay with him when the team is struggling to score at points the way they have this year.
Deep three goes. First three-pointer today, and it belongs to Isaiah Ruffin. Manuel, again, makes more than 10 a game pretty consistently. They're shooting 35% from 3 this year. Boyd, short. Good follow. Lorquette draws the foul, and he's headed to the free throw line on Marcus Fox's first foul, which will bring us to a timeout on the floor about 4.5 minutes into this game. An 8-6 lead for Emmanuel just underway. Should be a really fun track meet between 2 good offensive teams here on the Beacons Broadcast Network. Back at the Clark Athletic Center alongside Seth Orensky, Bill Spalding, glad to be with you. Emmanuel College leads UMass Boston 8-6 in the early going. Look at the quick numbers over the first 4.5 minutes. Beacons 3 for their first 7, Emmanuel 3 for its first 6. Only 1 turnover. It's been a clean start to this game, and in the matchup we're watching on the glass, both sides with 4 early rebounds, so an even start and what we expect to be a very even game.
Well, I really like the fact that Emmanuel recognizes the fact that UMass Boston's being aggressive on the boards. They're doing a great job of boxing out. Mark Monroe on one possession tried to sky for a rebound. And one of the smaller players on the floor, Emmett Riddick, listed at 5'11", got the butt on him and prevented him from even getting close to the board. Even if Monroe had been able to grab it, it would have been an over the back. So Emmanuel clearly has scouted UMass Boston well, and I think the same will probably be said of UMass Boston as we go along, because these coaches both want this game. They're good friends. They had a long conversation, and games like this, there's a little bit even more pressure to earn the win for your head coach.
Now, Achilles' heel for the Beacons this season has been free throw shooting. Malik Larquette is now 10 for 25 on the year from the line after missing his first 2 today. Beacons shooting just 54.7% from the stripe this year. Here's Riddick inside through contact. Emmett Riddick's first 2. He's the leading scorer for the Saints this year.
Scout on Riddick is that he's their most talented scorer, can score from all 3 levels, and that was a really nice finish getting around one of the Beacons' bigs.
Got an offensive foul off the ball, and it's going on one of the smallest players on the floor, Charlie Mitchell, who is trying to create post positioning on Riddick. All 5'10", 140 of Mitchell picks up his first foul.
Well, probably a benefit for UMass Boston that it was Mitchell instead of Hill, who already picked up the early foul. You see UMass Boston, just as we'll see more out of Emmanuel, the Beacons, with 3 substitutions. They're going to keep those guys fresh, but they're also going to try to figure out who has the hot hand today.
Charlie's twin brother, Charles Mitchell, into the game for the Beacons for the first time. Marcus Fox on the kick out. Comes down low. Chris Foley, extra pass. It's good ball movement. Fox to the outside. Now Riddick, junior from Middletown, Connecticut, averaging nearly 13 a game. Into the corner, wide open. Joe Tamburo's got it.
Beacon staff is going to be really upset about that possession. Charles Mitchell came across, the ball went right through his hands on a possible steal, and it looked like Fox might have gotten away with some movement on one of those picks.
Tamburo scores nearly 12 a game off the bench, and the Beacons turn it over. And it's an early UMass Boston travel. Dason Sinelli, you mentioned, just dealing with finding a new role this year. He's been in the starting lineup. He's been out of the starting lineup, and his numbers are down a bit from last year. 3 points, 3 rebounds less per game.
I think you see it a lot when a team gets deeper so quickly like UMass Boston has. The issue for Jason Harris his first 2 seasons was he just didn't have enough quality players to compete with some of the top teams in the LEC. This year the Beacons have the quality. It's just figuring out the right combos, and Sinelli has struggled to get as many touches, as many minutes as he did a year ago, and that's certainly going to hurt your confidence if you're not playing as well as you have in the past.
Meanwhile, Emmanuel off to a 5 for 8 start from the floor, leading by 7. Anthony Davidson missed the open 3. Seeing the depth of Emmanuel, they've already played 8 in the early going. Dason Sinelli pushing, bump from behind, and the ball is out off of Emmanuel. Seeing the difference between where these two teams recruit, for UMass Boston, Beacons are very local, within basically the Worcester and 495 boundary into Boston. Meanwhile, the majority of the Emmanuel roster, not from Massachusetts, but from Connecticut, up and down the roster from the Nutmeg State.
Emmanuel, a very good education school, UMass Boston nursing school, so a little bit of different majors that coaches can focus on recruiting for.
Charlie Mitchell came up empty, rebound down to one of those Nutmeggers, Joe Tamburo, a senior from South Windsor. Isaiah Ruffin off the mark from 3. Good rebound battle inside. Ira Lowe works it to the outside. Beg your pardon, that was Andrew Roberts. And now Riddick missed. 3 misses on the possession, yet no defensive rebounds yet for the Beacons. Ball stays with the Saints out of bounds.
No, and that was the big issue on Saturday. UMass Boston cut the game to 2 with 2 minutes to go, and then Western Connecticut State was able to grab 2 offensive rebounds, got a layup to extend it out to 4, and the Beacons were never able to get back into the game within a single possession.
And a 5-second closely guarded. Well done by Charles Mitchell and Charlie Mitchell. Charles was on the ball. Charlie was on the point guard. And Giovanni Ciampa couldn't get it in.
Well, we'll hear from those two about their twin connection at halftime. And you saw a little bit of there. Really, they're known for their quickness and all that, but they're best at their defense and their ability to sort of think on the same page and really cause a little bit of havoc.
And Charles and Charlie, so good defensively, so active this year, both having a hard time getting it to fall from the outside, as it was a miss on one end for Charles, but a foul on the other goes on Andrew Roberts. So the ball back to UMass Boston at 13-6.
Nice work there from Charlie Mitchell, who just tried to run through the screen of Roberts, and he stuck out the hip a little bit. Those two guys have forced back-to-back turnovers, but again, the Beacons have been a little bit ice cold, getting outscored 5-0 since the media timeout.
Yeah, just 3 for their first 9 from the floor. Here's Charles Mitchell, out to Charlie. In the corner, Jason Sinelli drives into a double team. Strong defensive possession from Emmanuel. Michael Boyd looking to create. Nunez out for Boyd with 8 to shoot. In the paint, Boyd, wave it off. It's an offensive foul. First foul on Boyd and the third on the Beacons in the opening 7.5 minutes.
I'm not sure if the defender had his feet 100% set, but I was going to say before that, it didn't look like a great shot because Boyd is going hard at the hoop. There's 2 players there. It seemed like a little bit of a force. And again, UMass Boston just not able to execute against this strong Emmanuel defense.
It's an aggressive take from Davidson with speed. Went right at Kevin Nunez to draw the foul. 2 free throws coming for the freshman from Annapolis, Maryland, Anthony Davidson.
And Nunez tried to get out of the way a little bit there as he tried to make the block, and that's why he was charged with the blocking call rather than the charge. Right now, Emmanuel just wants it a little bit more than UMass Boston. Their hustle on the boards, their energy, and they're doing a great job of limiting the Beacons' chances around the hoop.
Davidson averaging nearly 9 points a game off the bench. You'll notice if you watch this Emmanuel team that the substitutions come fast and come furious. They play 10, and nobody on the team has played more than 24.3 minutes. Jack Mulder leading the team in minutes at 24.3. So even the quote-unquote key players on this team are going to spend 10, 15, 20 minutes on the bench.
And I wonder if that'll change a little bit, if that tightens up as they get into conference play. They'll play their last 15 games of the season all in conference. First 2 are non-conference conference games, and then they'll play each team once in that conference. But it's certainly a nice showing from Lawson early on that he wants to see what he has in his young group.
It's a 7-0 run. A 3 to extend it. Tamburo got it again. Timeout, UMass Boston, a 12-point lead for Emmanuel College.
Hill tried to go underneath the screen from the big man. That was Andrew Roberts again, and it cost him. Right now, Emmanuel starting to heat up from distance, and UMass Boston, that nice start from Alex Sanchez offensively. They were ahead 4-3. Since then, it's been all Emmanuel. And got a couple of looks of Emmanuel heating up on offense.
So Emmanuel has scored 10 in a row. Joe Tamburo capping it with a 3-pointer. Here's some of the big plays early. There's the first 3 for Tamburo today. He was found in the corner. Heck of a shooter, 36% from 3 this year, and almost every single one of his made baskets is from 3. All but 2 field goals from 3 for Tamburo this season.
And that's a guy where you have to know the scout. Again, it's difficult. Hill had a player who stepped into him. It was a bit of a transition opportunity, but you cannot go underneath the screen against a shooter like Tamburo. Have to get over the top, have to make him give up the ball beyond the arc, especially when his feet are set, he's in rhythm, and that's just a bad defensive possession by Hill, but also by UMass Boston. You can't let Hill be in a situation where he's 1-on-2 against one of the better shooters for this Emmanuel team.
He was leading scorer last year, 13.9 a game. This year averaging 11.4 a game, coming off the bench as a super sub. Boyd to end the drought. That's a big 3 out of the timeout.
I don't know if that's what Jason Harris drew up as the play they wanted to go to, but that's a big hit from a guy who was the Beacons' top scorer a year ago for much of the second half.
First basket in more than 4 minutes for UMass Boston, followed by an offensive foul. Goes on Giovanni Ciampa. So it's Ciampa's first foul. Freshman from Tewksbury, Massachusetts. Seemed to get conflicting signals from a couple of referees.
Well, I thought I saw the foul. Charles Mitchell again, that hustle defensively to get around his screen, and it looked like it was Tamburo who gave a little bit of a shrug, but Beacons will take it nonetheless.
There's Sanchez. He's hit 3 early field goals, 6 points for the junior from Salem.
Yeah, UMass Boston really missed him a season ago, out for the season with an MCL injury. He's added a really nice piece for UMass Boston, a little bit of a veteran presence. See, the redshirt sophomore has been around longer than most on this Beacons roster.
5 quick ones out of the timeout for UMass Boston. Beacons back within 7. You can see how shifty and speedy Davidson is. Finds Ciampa. Back to Davidson. In amongst the trees. His shots altered. Both Hill and Lorquette were there. Now Hill shows off his ball handling. The length of the floor for 2.
Danny Lawson can't believe there wasn't a travel call there. It did look like Hill may have palmed it a little bit on that second to last dribble, but a great take, and that's where he's best. Getting out in transition and going straight at the hoop. He's a real handful for opposing defenders.
It's a 7-0 Beacon run. Hill picks up a soft second foul. Hand on the back. That'll be called almost every time. It's a rough way to get into foul trouble. There's a second foul on Jabaris Hill. Just when the Beacons had momentum, he's forced to exit. UMass Boston will go small, replacing the 6'4 Hill with the 6'1 Nunez.
And of course, here comes Marcus Fox because he's got that big body. Hill's one of the few guys who can really body him, and it'll be up to Malik Lorquette as UMass Boston goes a little bit smaller.
Nearing the midway point of this opening half, it's 18-13. A 7-0 Beacon run has pulled UMass Boston within 5. Riddick got it again. Emmett Riddick has scored 4. Balanced scoring from the Saints. No one with more than 6 en route to their opening 20. Mitchell answers with a 3. If those start to fall for Charles Mitchell, the Beacons will take a big step forward.
The Beacons are not going to shoot 27% from distance on the season, but yet Charles Mitchell, Charlie Mitchell, and Michael Boyd are all shooting at 27% or lower. Those guys just have to heat up. They have a proven track record of shooting at least 35%. And, I mean, that's a big difference. You're talking about 6 to 9 points a game. If you can just hit 1 or 2 or 3 more, you're attempting 20 a game. So that will help. But Riddick on the previous play, a beautiful head fake to get Nunez up and then stops at the free throw line. I've really liked what I've seen out of him offensively.
Charles Mitchell picked up a foul, extending the possession, rough into the outside. Riddick showing off the outside game. So he's scored at the rim, he's scored from the free throw line, and now he's made a 3.
Yeah, that dribble penetration cost Boyd as he tried to help out. The Beacons need to do a better job of keeping Emmanuel out of the paint.
Nunez follows a miss, and he's headed to the free throw line after Isaiah Ruffin's first foul.
Nice play by Kevin Nunez. He's the guy who replaced Hill, trying to provide that upbeat defense, but also a nice job on the boards. And Nunez, who's been a little bit up and down, really hot start to the season. He's been a key addition after Mount Ida closed this past spring, and UMass Boston took advantage.
Yep, Nunez transferred from Mount Ida after that university closed. Had played at Boston Community Leadership Academy, won a state championship in 2017. One thing Jason Harris has done is he's pulled a lot of guys off winning teams at the high school level. Of course, Charles and Charlie Mitchell teamed for a couple of state championships at New Mission High School as well.
Well, and the longer name of the school you just mentioned is New Mission, because a lot of those guys were bussed over because their school didn't have enough. So he's actually best friends with the Mitchell twins, and that's a big reason why he decided to come to UMass Boston.
Nunez hits both, so the Beacons are within 5. It's a clean look. Passed up on the outside for Roberts. Moving to Ciampa on the drive and dish. Ruffin has the height advantage, working on Charles Mitchell. 1 to shoot, couldn't pull the trigger. Mitchell got some help from Lorquette to collapse late in the shot clock.
Great job by both of those guys getting their hands on the ball, not getting called for reaching in. Got enough of the ball there. Again, Emmanuel upset with the lack of the call, but it looked pretty clean from up here. Obviously, the refs had a slightly better angle than we did.
It's a 12-5 Beacons run after UMass Boston had fallen behind by 12. Nunez draws another foul right at Ruffin, so that's 2 quick ones on the senior Ruffin. A rare senior in the game for either side. Free throws again for Nunez, and you got to pick somebody at the line for UMass Boston. Nunez has been one of the best options this year, shooting better than 68% with his 2 makes today.
Well, and this is the Nunez UMass Boston wants to see. He's getting the ball, he's going aggressively to the basket, he's rebounding well, he's playing good defense. When he's on, he's a huge addition to UMass Boston because he plays that somewhere between a 2 and a 4. He can be a small 4 or a really big 2, but he's able to do so many things well, and his chemistry with the Mitchell twins means that he always knows where they're going to be and vice versa, which certainly can help if the Beacons get out in transition.
Nunez makes 1 of 2, so he's 3 for 4 from the line today. The Beacons as a team, 3 for their first 6, and they're all the way back within 4. We expected this to be close. Would have been surprised if that 18-6 start led to a runaway. Strong response over the last 6 minutes or so for the Beacons.
Yeah, UMass Boston's been plagued by some slow starts. Saturday was the opposite. They got out to a 16-2 lead and then got cold the rest of the way.
It's an offensive foul on Roberts. Ruffin, for a moment, reacted thinking he'd picked up his 3rd. Instead, a 2nd on Roberts. And already the 6th on Emmanuel.
And that's the 3rd or 4th offensive foul on Emmanuel and the 2nd on Roberts. He's picked up 2, and they've both been on the offensive end. Just a little bit too much movement on those screens, and he'll be replaced by the equally large Ira Lowe.
6'5", 205 senior from North Smithfield, Rhode Island, into the game. Both teams with 6 fouls, so every defensive foul or loose ball foul the rest of the way means free throws.
I'd like to see Monroe get a touch here against the player just off the bench.
Trying to create positioning down low. Boyd instead falling away. Another tough shot.
I think the higher the difficulty level for Boyd, the more he likes the shot, feels confident that he's going to knock it down. And that was some good defense, just better offense.
7 today for Boyd to lead the way for the Beacons. Just a 2-point game. And a push. UMass Boston, that was Sanchez who was in on Riddick, Beg your pardon, Monroe will be tagged for the foul, and a 1-and-1 opportunity for Ruffin.
Monroe was trying to get out to the three-point line where Lowe was, and Reddick was trying to set the screen. Monroe, twice the size of Reddick, and that's why he got called. Wasn't anything egregious. It was just the bigger man pushed down the smaller man, and that's unfortunate because Reddick is one of their better offensive players.
And he's an 81% free throw shooter. He makes the first. He scored 8 today. There's a reason why Emmanuel leads the conference in free throw shooting. Zach Crisafulli, 84%. Giovanni Ciampa is 13 for 13 from the line this year. Mulder is 7 for 8. Fox is an 82% free throw shooter, and Riddick, though, a miss there at 81% on this season. Good physical rebound from Ruffin once again, who can get up above the rim.
That's not a good take for Michael Boyd. A 3 in transition with 24 on the shot clock. You need to get a little bit of a better look there.
Down low. Didn't go. Crisafulli. Ruffin has another board.
3 Beacons there. Ruffin's able to grab it. That is going to be something that's not going to be taken well by the Beacons coaching staff.
Tambora with a 2nd offensive rebound, and then Ruffin's tagged on a rebounding foul, and that is his 3rd. It's an aggressive foul, but you got to know where you're at when you've already picked up 2. It stops play. 7:26 to go in the opening half. A 24-21 lead for Emmanuel College here on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
The University of Massachusetts Boston. It's just minutes from downtown, and the Princeton Review calls it one of the best values in the country. A nationally recognized institution of academic excellence and research, UMass Boston offers more than 150 undergraduate and graduate programs, 16 Division III sports, and more than 100 student organizations. To learn more about the opportunities waiting for you at UMass Boston, visit in person or online. UMass Boston, a research university with a teaching soul.
Paris changed my life, and I got there through UMass. Those very specific seminal moments in Paris, the subway. A man in a tuxedo walked in, and a woman in a long gown. And it was stunning. It all hit me. It was like a lightning bolt. There was this world of beauty and style that I wanted to be a part of. That was the beginning of the journey. And that all came through the University of Massachusetts. And that was really a key moment for me. It's one of those moments you never forget.
At the Clark Athletics Center, 24-21 the lead for Emmanuel College. A 1-and-1 free throw opportunity coming from Mark Monroe. Quick bookkeeping update. That was the 2nd foul on Isaiah Ruffin. One of the earlier fouls that we up here had erroneously credited to Ruffin was actually given to Marcus Fox. So 2 on Ruffin, 2 on Fox, which is why neither of those 2 key players are in the game for Emmanuel, though the free throw contest will likely not go the way of the Beacons today against one of the best free throw shooting teams in the country. Beacons come in at 54%, and Mark Monroe with the miss has the Beacons at 3 for 7 today from the line.
Yeah, that's not a good miss. Monroe wide right, and then not close enough to Lowe there on the three-pointer. A bad sequence of events there for Mark Monroe.
3rd three-pointer this season for Ira Lowe. Just like that, Emmanuel College goes back up by 6. Beacons have been led by Michael Boyd, 7. Alex Sanchez is 6 today. Charlie Mitchell stop and pop, missed it. Emmanuel +6 on the glass early, out-rebounding the Beacons 14-8, and what was going to be a key to watch today. Emmanuel turns it over as Chris Afuli couldn't haul in the pass.
Well, a nice job, though, by Charles Mitchell, badgering the ball. The Mitchell twins have caused quite a few turnovers, and they're not going to get credit with steals in the book, but they forced some illegal screens. They made some other nice plays. Those two are having a really nice game defensively.
That was the 6th Emmanuel turnover. Beacons have only turned it over 3 times. Mitchell on the handoff. Hard drive. Sanchez rejected. Low got a piece. Beacons pull it back out. Charlie Mitchell passes a clean 3. Attacks the rim and scores through the large Low. He gives up 7 inches to him, and he's still finished.
These guys are fearless, especially Charlie, who passed up the wide open 3 because he knows that's not as much his game, and a really strong take.
Pulls the Beacons back within 4 once again. Emmett Riddick has scored 8 early. He enters it inside, and we have another offensive foul on Joe Tamburo.
And another one drawn by Charlie Mitchell. It was a clear shove-up as the smaller player tried to deny the pass down low.
That's the 8th foul already on Emmanuel, the 1st on Tamburo.
Julius Goins in the game for UMass Boston for the first time. Not quite as big as Hill or Lorquette, but another very athletic forward.
4th Beacon turnover comes on an Alex Sanchez travel as he tried to stop quickly at the free throw line. Mentioned Goins, freshman from Worcester, playing about 8 minutes a game as he slowly adjusts to the college game. You can tell he has a high upside, and when you look at his frame, he probably has room to add 20 to 30 pounds throughout his time here at UMass Boston.
And the Beacons have quite a few guys who can throw down some impressive dunks. He might be the most impressive high flyer.
Tamburo, tough shot. It's his first 2 after a couple of 3s. Creative way to score there. Carey on the other end. Mitchell's dribble got up above really the armpit area, and Beacons have turned it over twice in quick succession.
Second or third time today where UMass Boston's been able to get back into the game, cut it within a possession or 2, and then shot themselves in the foot with a couple of bad shots, a couple of bad turnovers in a row. The Beacons just need to be a little bit more consistent. That's been the issue offensively all year.
Here's another 3 for Lowe. Ira Lowe hits his 2nd. He's already doubled up his season average. It's the 6th Emmanuel 3. They are 6 for 10.
Well, and that's not in the scouting report for Lowe. The Beacons coaching staff kind of put their head in their hands, but the Beacons defenders are doing exactly what they were told on that specific player.
Lowe has a rebound off the Sanchez miss. 3-pointer here would match Emmanuel's largest lead of the game. Led 18-6, a 12-point lead earlier today. Emmanuel 6-3, UMass Boston 5-3. There's Mitchell helping out Mitchell. Charlie comes over as Charles was fronting Chris Afuli, and Chris Afuli will send Charlie Mitchell to the free throw line with a reach-in foul.
The Mitchells have made such a big game. I mean, this game could be a 20-point game without their defensive effort, because again, the offense, just like it was against Western in that second half, has not been crisp. But the Beacons are forcing turnovers consistently because of the efforts specifically of those 2 players.
Free throws now for Charlie Mitchell. UMass Boston just 3 of 7 and 4 of 8 after about a 7-20 around the rim for Mitchell. Charlie Mitchell 17 for 26 from the free throw line this season.
Yeah, even though he's not as good of a shooter overall as his brother Charles, he is a slightly better free throw shooter.
At least this season by the numbers. Of course, last year Charles was knocking down everything, averaged about 16 points a game in a Little East all-rookie team season. It's a 7-point lead for Emmanuel College, led by as much as 12. But now Lorquette guards Lowe out at the 3-point line after he's knocked down a couple. Lorquette closing on Lowe with 4 to shoot. Davidson at the shot clock buzzer, traveled.
Thought that was going to be a reaching call on Sinelli, who put his hand across, but they got the Euro step first.
It's the 9th turnover for Emmanuel. That's another thing that has helped keep UMass Boston in it in a game where the Beacons are being outshot and being out-rebounded by 5. They have turned it over 4 less times than the Saints.
Jabaris Hill comes back with those 2 fouls. Has to be very careful. UMass Boston is going to need him in the second half, especially if this is a tight game.
Hill replaces Lorquette. And played with 2 fouls. He scored just 2 today, dealing with that foul trouble. Michael Boyd, an early 7. He has the rock at the moment. Driving dish to Charlie Mitchell. Charles penetrates. Left it short. Hill on the tip back, overshot it. Manuel looking to run. Davidson all the way to the tin. And a rebound out to Charlie Mitchell. It's a 3-on-1 for the Beacons. Sinelli draws the foul.
Well, you needed to get points out of this possession, and now it's up to Dason Sinelli. On that previous possession, it looked like the referees missed a little contact. Charles went hard to the tin. It looked like he might have been caught in the left hand, but again, you have to love the intensity. Both teams' guards are being very aggressive, taking the ball to the hoop. The big guys are kind of just out there playing defense and shooting threes.
3:42 to go first half. Take a quick break. When we come back, we'll wrap things up in half number 1. Fun start between the Saints and the Beacons.
UMass Boston was my first choice because when I came to the campus, I saw that there was a lot of diversity. There's a lot of people. Here there's a lot of international students, so it's really cool to meet people from different countries, different parts of the world. I'm Julia Murphy. I'm from Canton, Massachusetts.
I'm Olivia Murphy. I'm from Canton, Massachusetts.
We're sisters. I play volleyball and she plays basketball. Here they have a freshman success community. So each major has their own community that you can join as a freshman, and you take classes with them, you do study groups with them. So it was really helpful getting to know people in your major right away.
So in health exercise sciences, we have an internship at the end, so it's so much better to have like an advisor helping you out, like telling you which classes to choose.
At the Clark Athletic Center, 32-25 the lead for Emmanuel College with Seth Orensky, Bill Spalding. Beacons' Dason Sinelli, junior from Boston, at the free throw line. Beacons are in the double bonus. Sinelli's first trip. He is the Beacon leader in free throw percentage, 11 for his first 14 this year. And now 12 for 15.
And you talked about UMass Boston's perimeter in terms of their recruiting. Well, Dason came literally from the Beacons' backyard, attended Boston Collegiate Charter, which is just on the opposite side of the JFK T-stop here in Dorchester.
Sinelli makes them both. Beacons within 5. Here's Emmanuel Riddick, so athletic. He scored 10, the first player to double figures.
Smart play there by Hill. He thought about being a little bit more aggressive on the block and specifically took a step back. That third foul would have been worse than getting a block there.
Mitchell, no. Sinelli, short. The ball's tapped out by Riddick, who was disappointed he didn't grab it. Important last 3 minutes here for the Beacons.
Oh, huge. If you can make this a one possession, even a 4-point, 5-point game, you have to feel okay just because of how bad the Beacons started. On the other side, if you're Emmanuel, you feel like you've been the better team. You want to stretch this out to double digits, especially with how good you've been in the second half the last couple of games.
Sanchez, Sinelli. Good little hook shot from Dason Sinelli.
Might have gotten away with the swim move as he was able to open up a little bit of space, but a nice take after he short-armed the last shot.
Both Beacons within 5. Gotten close a couple times after falling behind by 12 early. Haven't been able to pull closer than 3. See if they can get over the hump late here. Chris Foley back to basket, brings Boyd all the way down and rings the bell for 2.
It's a really nice take from Chris Foley, who had a little bit of size.
Jabaris Hill has been really good in the open floor, and he'll go to the free throw line here.
What do you do if you're Ira Lowe? Yes, you have a little bit of a size advantage at 6'5", and you're listed at the same height, but it's clear that Hill has a step or two on Lowe, and all he could do was give up the body.
Now, contrasting stat lines for Jabaris Hill, he leads Little East Conference in field goal percentage, 62.7%, but he is below 50% from the free throw line, now 11 for 25. That is 44%. And he airballs the second free throw.
It's something the Beacons have been working on more and more in practices, devoting 5-10 minutes to, but that's going to be a huge focus over break. You can improve your free throw shooting in the midst of the season. You can't improve a ton of things drastically, but if UMass Boston continues to shoot this poorly, their chances of doing anything in the Little East Conference are going to be really, really difficult.
Jason Harris gets Hill out with those 2 fouls, likely done for the half, and Riddick goes back to work on offense for the Saints. 12 today for Riddick. He's already at his season average.
And these free throws are killing the Beacons. They've missed the front ends of one-and-ones. They've missed 2 free throws here and there, and it's keeping UMass Boston from getting completely back in this game.
A steal from Davidson, and Charlie Mitchell reaches in to slow him down. Second foul on Charlie. It's the 8th on the Beacons, a 1-and-1 opportunity coming for Anthony Davidson, sports management major at Emmanuel College. Went just 3-22 as a team last season, already 6-3. So Danny Lawson could lose every game the rest of the year and already say doubled the win total in his first year as head coach.
Well, and you talked about Danny Lawson being a member of the Celtics staff during that 2008 championship team. He's also had a lot of success at the Division I level. LIU Brooklyn went through a period where they just dominated their conference. Spent a little bit of time at Duquesne, and then the last couple of years he's been at Endicott College, a really successful team in the CCC. He's clearly developed an idea of what he wants to see out of his program and what winning means and how to get there.
Lawson's local. He played at Bentley, which of course has such a proud program at that D2 level, and had a lot of good experience, first with the Celtics, then at the Division I level. His team was up 11. Michael Boyd makes it a single-digit game once again. 9 today for Boyd. 6 of those points have come on long twos. He has 1 3-pointer as well.
Lawson made it to, I believe, an Elite 8 and a Sweet 16 in his time there, and he was one of the top athletes in the entire school while he was at Bentley.
Tamboro got lost in the Beacon defense. An easy layup. He has scored 10. So 22 of the 42 have come from Riddick and Tamboro, who are the top 2 scorers for this Saints team.
And that's been the difference. You see Emmanuel occasionally getting some of those easy looks where a Beacons defender gets lost. UMass Boston hasn't had any easy looks in this contest. Emmanuel's done a really good job of keeping a body on a man.
It's an 8-2 Saints run. Riddick turned it over. Here's Charles Mitchell turning on the afterburners.
That's a dangerous play coming back to the right, but able to just beat the defender there, and that's a big basket for the Beacons after forcing the turnover.
UMass Boston back within 9. Emmanuel can manage the clock here to get a 2-for-1. Pretty early shot. Tamboro rattles out. Now the Beacons have a chance at a 2-for-1 if they score quick.
Yeah, Lawson was not happy with that one. That's one where the coach is happy if you hit it, but realistically it's not good time management.
Mitchell, no, though the Beacons will get one more chance here. A 5-second difference between game clock and shot clock, maybe 4.5 seconds.
I don't think Jason Harris is going to be too happy with that 3-point look either. The Beacons have struggled from the 3-point line.
Tough shot, Tamboro, so he makes amends on the previous possession. He's up to 12, 11-point Saints lead. Shot clock off, important possession for the Beacons.
Like to get Alex Sanchez a little bit more involved, see if you can get him heading down towards the basket, potentially looking for a kickoff.
Boyd instead penetrates over Tamboro at the buzzer. No. Beacons come up empty on the final possession and trail by 11 at the half.
Kind of how this game has gone for UMass Boston. Just not quite crisp enough. A decent enough look, contested, yes. But UMass Boston just has not hit enough shots all season long. And that's tough for UMass Boston. It feels like a big difference being down single digits versus double digits, even if it's 9 versus 11 mentally. And this Beacons team is going to have to find some answers. They have to compete at a higher level here because Emmanuel is really doing a nice job of executing the scout.
Emmanuel made 6 3-pointers in the first half, out-rebounded the Beacons, and UMass Boston left a boatload of points at the free throw line. Still 20 minutes to work with as the Beacons look to remain unbeaten in the non-conference at the half, 44-33, Emmanuel College.
I came from a working-class family. I grew up in a hard-edged section of Lowell, Massachusetts, and I lived with my 6 siblings and my parents in a 4-bedroom house that had 1 bathroom. I knew that the only way that I was going to get to where I wanted to get to was if I got a high-quality college education, and I had the University of Massachusetts right in my hometown. It made a difference. I'm the first undergraduate alumnus to lead this university. I'm very proud of that. I think with that comes a special responsibility as a steward, as a protector. Every student that I see that walks through the door, I see myself. I was exactly where they are now. I had their same challenges, their same aspirations, their same dreams. And it makes me want to fight for them. It makes me want to make sure that they get every opportunity that I got. I was literally able to transform my life because of the University of Massachusetts, and I want that for every single student that walks through the door.
Paris changed my life, and I got there through UMass. Those very specific seminal moments in Paris, the subway. A man in a tuxedo walked in, and a woman in a long gown, and it was stunning. It all hit me. It was like a lightning bolt. There was this world of beauty and style that I wanted.
With Jason Harris at halftime. Jason, 44 points for Emmanuel in that first half. What do you do defensively to try and slow him down?
Well, they got 6 threes, so obviously that's softening up the pressure a little bit, but they're just way too comfortable. It's something we talked about. We have 9 turnovers. You know, it's just we need way more effort. They're playing harder right now. They're coached better. They're kicking our butt right now.
On offense, some ebbs and flows, but some sustained periods of struggles on offense. What do you do to try and pick up the play there?
Try, move the ball faster. Let our defense create our offense. Not stand around so much. Rebound. The things that we do when we win, we're just not doing them, and we better wake up quick because these guys are playing really well right now.
All right, thanks, Jason. Good luck in the second half. All right, back up top to Seth.
Just like me, that does everything with me, and I'm never bored. Like when I'm actually bored at home, I go in his room. Like I have a brother that loves to do what I do, and we do everything together. We literally do everything together.
That is our identity. People do say, like, if we wasn't twins, what would we be? We're brothers. We would still be brothers, but we're not going to talk about that. We're twins, so we're going to stick with the twin thing. We are a package deal, so, we don't go nowhere without each other, so why stop doing that now?
It was more of like a group thing. Wherever I went, he was gonna go regardless. It wasn't like an individual choice. We a package deal no matter what. If I wanted to go here, we'll both have to agree on it. If he wanted to go somewhere else, we had to agree on it. We had to go look at the place. If I don't like it, I'll tell him. But then at the end of the day, we made a decision to come to UMass Boston as a group.
We both put thought into schools that we really wanted to go to. UMass wasn't one of our top schools, but they wiggled their way in there as we made our final decision because they did show interest and they really fought for us. And we was like, why not stay in the city and play and win something for a city that's made for championships?
It was more of I was the shooter and he was the ball handler. I would rely on him to break the press and then find me in the corner, and that's what we stuck with. Like high school, he would just dribble, and I got no problem with him dribbling because I know right when he beats his man, I'm wide open because my man has to help, and that's what we stuck with, and that's what got us this far, and which people would like, and people know us by Charles can shoot, so stay with Charles, and Charlie can dribble and do fancy layups and all that, and then got no problem with it. And as we get older and our game gets better, he's going to be able to shoot and I'm going to be able to dribble, and then we're going to be unstoppable. BNBL, Boston Neighborhood League, and one day he was like, I want to play for the mission team, and I was like, I'll play for the Boston, it was some Roxbury team, and I'm like, all right. So and then we end up playing against each other, and then everybody was his team actually won, but it was actually fun to play against. But that's really the only time that we ever played. Is only like leagues one team need, But other than that, we play together always. Of course, me. But we really don't play one-on-one. People be asking us why. To me, it doesn't really prove anything. To one-on-one is just all right. You beat me in a one-on-one, but can you do it in a game, or can you show other people? Like me and my brother, we would play like one-on-one for fun. We'll joke around to get each other better, but like at the end of the day, we're gonna be on the same team, and then we're gonna go hard against whoever else we play. It's a connection. He knows where I'm going on a fast break. He knows what I like to do, where I go. So it's like that connection he has without even thinking. Like he could literally throw it to the corner without looking. He know I was gonna be there. Or he could drive and he could do a no-look pass, and because he knows I'm gonna be in that corner, and he knows I got his back on a press when we do a press. That's why we so good at it, because I know he's gonna cut the dude off, and I can either block it or I can get a back tap. Like that's how we get our steals, and that's why we always together. And the teams love when we're at the top of the press because, come on, like
chemistry.
You're right, the chemistry we have is just unstoppable.
We grew up together, and like we're not one of those families that like, you know, brothers talk here and there, you know, just spend time here and there. Like we've been together for so long, like our family's so close, and like the bond that we have with each other is like, although every family fights, but like our fights won't be so long as like, okay, I don't want to talk to you, okay, I want to move out. It's like we've been together, we played on teams together, we played multiple sports together. It's like this is not the only sport we did, so like the chemistry we build on different levels. It's not just basketball levels.
We played football before any other sport, well, soccer, and then it goes to football. He was a quarterback, I was a running back, and then that was like the difference in basketball. I'm the shooter and he's the dribbler. So he would run a play. I remember it always. He ran a play. He was like, I believe in my brother. It was the final seconds, and he gave me the ball, and he knew I was going to get the touchdown. We ended up winning that game. So it's just like we have so much trust in each other.
So good getting to know the Mitchell twins even further, and today we've seen the impact, Seth, that they can have on a basketball game.
Well, it's funny. They talked a lot about their ability on the press to wreak havoc. Today it's been more in the half court because the Beacons haven't been able to keep Emmanuel in their backcourt much on the press, but those guys have been phenomenal defensively. It won't show up much in the stats we're about to show you, but I think that Coach would credit their abilities, although I'm sure he'd like a little bit more offensive production from both guys. UMass Boston, you're looking at now 50 minutes, just has not been good enough offensively. Jumped out to a 16-2 run against Westcott in the first 6-8 minutes, and then finished the game with 50 points. 33 points tonight. I mean, that's not a terrible total, but when this game's as much of a track meet as it's been, you have to do a better job offensively.
Let's take a look at those first half stats and numbers that'll jump out immediately, and they jumped at Jason Harris to 55% from 3 for Emmanuel. That's on 6 of 11 in the first half. Early on, the Beacons had the advantage in the turnover battle, but late in the half they struggled and ended up with 9 first half turnovers. The rebounding gap also closed as well, but those percentages next to the field goals, the threes, and the free throws, that's why it's an 11-point game right now.
Well, and it's so difficult because UMass Boston's done a good job of getting to the line. They've been there 13 times. Emmanuel's only had 8 opportunities, but the Beacons are just +1 because of their struggles. And the other thing is giving up a 57% mark from the field at home is inexcusable, especially for a team that prides itself on its hustle, on its grit. I mean, UMass Boston needs to do a better job, and a big part of that is doing a better job of getting hands in the face of shooters. We've seen too many open looks for Emmanuel from distance. They've hit 6, 4 or 5 of those. The shooter had probably a foot or two of space, and that's too easy when you look at a team that shoots it as well from distance as Emmanuel does.
Now let's look at the individual stats. Emmanuel has been led by a two-headed monster. Emmett Riddick and Joe Tamburo have each scored 12 for Emmanuel. For the Beacons, Michael Boyd up to 9 points, Alex Sanchez 6, but those mostly came early for him. Rebounding-wise, Isaiah Ruffin may be technically listed as a guard, but we've seen him in the mix in almost every single rebound for Emmanuel.
Yeah, he is a force down low. We talked about Marcus Fox being the guy you had to worry about on the boards. Instead, it's been Ruffin. The other thing for UMass Boston is I get the fact that a lot of your most talented offensive players are your guards, but you need to get your bigs more touches. Jabaris Hill is a talented offensive player. Mark Monroe has a couple of decent post moves. Malik Lorquette is capable. Those guys did not get any touches on the block in that first half, and that's where you get some of your easier baskets.
Let's go. If we go back to our matchup pregame we talked about, which was Jabaris Hill versus Marcus Fox. Now, neither had a huge first half, but both were really limited by foul trouble. In fact, Fox only played 7 minutes because of his early foul trouble, picking up 2 quick ones. Hill only played 9 minutes, so neither had a chance to really get into the rhythm of the game.
Yeah, and that's going to be a problem for UMass Boston because 3 different Emmanuel players had 2 fouls on them. The Beacons really only had the foul trouble with Hill and then a little bit from Charles Mitchell. So Emmanuel's going to have those guys available here in the second half unless they pick up a quick third or even fourth. It's a lot of things are pointing towards Emmanuel's favor, and it's all going to be, can UMass Boston raise their level of play here in the second half? Otherwise, it's probably going to be a double-digit win for this Emmanuel team who's been so good in the second half recently.
Jason Harris said it. He wanted to talk effort. That was going to be key in half 2. Let's take a look at the highlights from half number 1, Beacons and Emmanuel, and you will see a lot of plays that showcase the stellar offensive ability of Emmanuel College. Seth, A lot of good ball movement for Emmanuel, and then some individual skill from Emmett Riddick, who was so impressive in that first half.
Emmett Riddick has been the best player offensively for either side. You see it early, though. It was all Emmanuel. They ran out to an 18-6 lead. We both were wondering, could the Beacons pick it up? They were able to do so, but then a nice little late run for Emmanuel got them back out to an 11-point lead. Offensively for UMass Boston, it was really Alex Sanchez early and then Michael Boyd in the middle portion. Those are the only guys who have gotten into any kind of rhythm. You see Sanchez, a nice drive there, a floater from the free throw line. Those two guys have been aggressive offensively, but some of the other guards are taking some threes that really aren't a big part of their repertoire.
This was part of a Beacon run after they'd fallen behind by 12. He had a really good move from Jabaris Hill going coast to coast. Beacon's got it back to about as close as 2 after that three-pointer, but then there was another surge from Emmanuel. Back-to-back three-pointers from Ira Lowe helped open things up once again.
Ira Lowe's the guy who's playing less than 10 minutes per game on the season, only had one made three, and that's tough because you give your players a scouting report and you say these are the guys you can sag off of, and these are the guys you have to constantly keep a hand in the face. Emmanuel has too many shooters for the Beacons to constantly keep a hand in the face, and Lowe really made the Beacons pay.
And then there was more of Tamburo and Riddick. Both have scored 12 apiece. Seen some tough shots go down for Michael Boyd, who does lead the Beacons with 9.
And a big part of that is the defense. Jason Harris just not happy with his team's defensive effort. Even that fast break layup from Charles Mitchell, that was a contested shot. A nice job by Emmanuel getting back. If the Beacons are going to get back into this game, it starts on the defensive end.
Yeah, a chance to take a look around the Little East. Only one game today from Little East foes, a non-conference matchup in Little East play as Castleton's taken on Fitchburg State in Fitchburg in Massachusetts, and it's a final. Fitchburg State 73, Castleton 65. So Castleton falls once again. They're down to 3-6 now on the season.
A little bit of problem with the graphics. Yeah, that's a tough loss for Castleton. Pittsburgh State's been in a downward spiral ever since they saw one of their better players kicked off the team for an egregious act against Nichols College. A couple of big wins one big win for an LSC team last night. It was UMass Dartmouth defeating Tufts. They beat Keene at Keene on Saturday to beat Tufts. That's a nice run for the Corsairs, who go into the break winners of 7 of their past 9.
Yeah, they're up to 7-4 on this season. Little East conference standings are pretty interesting early on in the year. No team undefeated, even though everybody's played either 3 or 4 games. That tells you it should be bunched. Plymouth State and Eastern Connecticut State both 3-1. UMass Dartmouth and Western Connecticut State 2-1, along with Keene State, Rhode Island College 2-2. Southern Maine and the Beacons both 1-3, and Castleton 0-3 so far this year. Take a quick break. When we come back, we'll have second half action.
The University of Massachusetts Boston, with its scenic oceanfront campus, easily accessible to downtown Boston, is recognized as a model of excellence for urban public universities. 16 NCAA Division III sports are part of the more than 100 student organizations that create an engaging campus life in America's biggest and best college town. UMass Boston, Boston's urban public research university for the 21st century.
Set to start half 2 here in Beaconville at the Clark Athletic Center with Seth Orensky, Bill Spalding. Thanks so much for making us part of your Tuesday night plans. 44-33. UMass Boston trails Emmanuel College. Matchup of 2 teams off to good starts this year. Beacons 5-3, Saints 6-3. And in that first half, the theme was shooting. Emmanuel shot 57%, held the Beacons to 41%. It's your key difference early on. Good move from Kevin Nunez and an early bucket. Been an active game for Nunez, who scored 6 early points for the Beacons.
And I like the fact that Nunez is starting this second half after coming off the bench in the first half. He's been a little bit more effective than Mark Monroe, and he gives the Beacons a little bit more speed against a very quick Emmanuel team.
Jabaris Hill out there with 2 fouls, and he goes up against Marcus Fox, who's also out with 2 fouls for Emmanuel. Here's Isaiah Ruffin. Saints led by 12 apiece from Riddick and Tamburo in that first half. Blues it out here on turnover number 11 for the Saints.
That was a nice contested play by Nunez. Ruffin wanted to get to the rim, unable to do so. taking a fadeaway from about 8 to 10 feet, not a big part of his game, and a nice defensive stop for the Beacons.
Beacons go right back at it on offense. Gotten to the free throw line 13 times already. Charlie Mitchell just short offensive board. Hill. See if he can get into a rhythm after foul trouble in half one. Struggling to get shots to fall today, just 1 for 5 from the floor.
It's a nice job by Fox contesting it, and Hill maybe sped up a little bit too much on that shot. Manuel just does a great job of getting a hand in front of every Beacon shooter.
There's the 7th three for the Saints. Isaiah Ruffin hits his second. Back to a 12-point lead for Emmanuel College. That matches the largest today for the Saints. I get the feeling the first 5 minutes of this half will go a long way in setting the tone for what type of second half we have ahead of us.
Well, all that good work in the first 4 possessions, and then the Beacons give up a 3, now a turnover. That's exactly the last thing Jason Harris would have wanted.
It's UMass Boston's 10th turnover today. Jabaris Hill reaches in with a steal. Perfect pass forward. Nunez is fouled on the dunk. It's a good foul on Zachary Crisafulli to force Nunez to earn it at the line.
And that's tough because, well, Nunez is one of the Beacons' better free throw shooters. They've struggled so much, so that's a great foul to give. Beacons have had a couple of those plays where they've been fouled. Haven't been able to get the three-point play the old way. And right now, UMass Boston, they've missed so many layups and dunks this season. When you add that along with the free throws, they're just making their lives a little bit harder than they have to be.
Nunez makes the first free throw. And goes just 1 of 2. Good rebound from Fox. Had to stick him on his hands to grab that one.
Yeah, Jabaris Hill did a nice job battling for it, but just too many blue shirts down there for Emmanuel.
So Emmanuel's lead 11. This is Riddick on the penetration. Crisafulli. Even though he's a guard, he likes to play on the interior. Scored at the rim a couple of times today.
He's got good size for a guard, 6'3", 200. And the Beacons have some smaller guards who can be back down on the block.
Fox steps out for 3. It's 8 threes for Emmanuel. Saints lead by a game-high 14.
Jason Harris has the jacket off. He has the tie off. There's not a lot that he's happy seeing right now as Emmanuel just continues to execute at a really high level.
That was only Fox's second three-pointer this season. So Fox in the low with some uncharacteristic shots from downtown. Charlie Mitchell and 1. Now, when Jason Harris talked effort, you never have to worry about effort with either of the Mitchell twins.
I know, that's just a great take by Charlie Mitchell. They're fearless. It doesn't matter how much bigger or longer or stronger. These guys are just very confident in their own abilities. It showed in their first collegiate game last year against UMass Lowell when they helped UMass Boston get out to a 43-43 tie at halftime. Those guys came out and thought they were just as good as every single Division I player for the Riverhawks, and they really haven't lost any of that confidence here in their sophomore year.
Mitchell has scored an early 6. Cannot complete the and 1. Beacons are now back to an even 50% from the free throw line, 8 of 16. Fast ball movement leads to a Riddick 3.
Alex Sanchez was there. He contested the shot against a player the same height. Just doesn't matter. Riddick is really feeling it, and you not only can't give him any space, you have to maybe get the ball to keep it from going in the net.
15-point lead for Emmanuel. Ball barely hit the floor on that possession.
Really nice touch. It just fell off the front of the rim.
Beacons inside, another and 1. Nunez continuing a good performance. 9 points for Kevin Nunez.
Easier said than done, though. The two teams have been trading threes versus potential N1s, and the Beacons haven't been hitting the free throws. Chance for UMass Boston to get back within 12, but right now, if you're Emmanuel, you're pretty happy with the way this half has started, minus the 3 team fouls, because right now you're still winning these first 5 minutes.
Isaiah Ruffin picks up his 3rd foul.
And another missed free throw.
Boy, Beacon free throws now go below 50% at 8 of 17. Riddick, good feed. Way he'd played today, he draws the defense forward, and Andrew Roberts left all alone.
Beacon's just shuffling around defensively. He's trying to get back into their man-to-man after pressing and unable to really stop Riddick as he drove to the basket.
Outside Nunez. Short on a 3. Sinelli tapping at it, and Mitchell squeezes. Extra possession for the Beacons. Boyd attacking Crisafulli, draws a foul on the floor. It's the third on Zachary Crisafulli. You kind of feel like every empty possession you're going backwards here, the way that Emmanuel is executing on offense.
And if the Beacons were a better free throw shooting team, you'd feel pretty good about yourself, because 4 fouls in less than 4 minutes means you're going to get into the bonus, maybe get some chances. But the way the Beacons are shooting free throws, it actually kind of hurts you on a potential 1-and-1.
Still 15 to shoot. Malik Lorquette inside, back to basket. Lorquette's fouled. That's 3 on Marcus Fox. Strong take by the freshman from Sharon, Malik Lorquette, and it stops play. 4:06 in to this second half. Beacons have seen Emmanuel's lead stretch to 15. They've got some work to do, but still plenty of time as we continue here on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
People at UMass Boston, they're here because they know they can have an impact, not just on research, but on people, on their students.
This is just a starting point. It only has potential to grow, and it has a big potential to grow up.
You're really having a direct impact on people's lives, and you can see that now, and you can see that years from now.
So I think it's becoming like the place that people want to go.
What UMass Boston is able to offer to its young people certainly stands out to that mission that was set right out in the beginning. It's something UMass Boston should be and can be very proud about.
Hot shooting from Emmanuel College, shooting 60.6% from the floor, 64% from 3 on 9 of 14 shooting. They're playing really pretty offensive basketball. The ball movement's been great, and it leads to a lot of open looks.
Well, it's funny. Danny Lawson was the associate head coach at Endicott last season. I saw Endicott in their opener at MIT. It was ranked 5th in the country. Kind of feels like I'm watching Endicott a little bit. Endicott shoots a boatload of threes. They're a team that averages 10 to 12 made threes a game, but they have really good ball movement. And I think a lot of those principles that Lawson was coaching over at Endicott, he's brought to Emmanuel, because they're another team that shoots extremely well and relies on the three-point shot.
11 assists on 20 field goals. Meanwhile, the Beacons continue to struggle from the free throw line. Malik Lorquette's miss puts UMass Boston at 8 for 18. Lorquette is 0 for 3 today, 10 for 26 on the year, and the Beacons have left 10 points at the line. Lorquette swishes the second, see if that gets him going, his first point of the day.
I almost cringed a little bit before the break when Lorquette was fouled, because he was going to get the offensive rebound and have an easier chance for the putback. That's a possession that hurts UMass Boston a little bit, because they only get one. Beacons need to start matching Emmanuel, especially because they're playing better defense and Emmanuel's shooting even better.
Beacons turn the pressure on for the first time this half. Something that could spark them back into this game as well. Emmanuel breaks it for the first time, but did have to use the full 10 seconds to get it across. Inside, David Albany is in for the first time today, as is Ira Lowe for the first time in the half. Remember, Lowe made 2 threes in the first half. Riddick is fouled nearly 30 feet out from the hoop. It comes with just 5 on the shot clock. So a new timer for Emmanuel and a third foul on Charlie Mitchell.
And Charlie's frustrated, and the Beacons coaching staff is frustrated, but he did that because he's being ultra aggressive. The closeout on the three-point shooter previous to that, trying to avoid allowing Riddick to get an easy look at the basket. It's almost better right now to be overly aggressive and to limit those three-point looks, because Emmanuel, the way they're shooting, are knocking down, 66% of their threes at this point?
Yeah, 9 for 14, so about 64%. Emmanuel going deep down the bench. Blake Hardy in for the first time today as well. Here's Albany, who just entered 2 to shoot. Riddick got it again. That's 10 threes for Emmanuel.
The Beacons had 60 seconds of good defense and still gave up 3 points. That's how well Emmanuel's playing. Sometimes it's not even your compete level, how good you're playing defensively. The other team's just outplaying the Beacons in terms of their ability to execute.
Boyd was partially blocked by Hardy. Largest lead today for Emmanuel. Riddick has scored 18 and has 3 threes. Davidson turned away. Lorquette stuffs him. Charlie Mitchell lost it back to Davidson as he dove to the floor. Shot clock never reset, so just 10 to shoot for Emmanuel. Davidson walked. slipped in the middle of the paint. It's a turnover, ball back to the Beacons, who at this point you feel like almost need to score at every possession because Emmanuel's converting at such a high rate.
Well, that's the first empty possession for Emmanuel, at least on the last 4 or 5 trips. They've been so good, and they're starting to hit shots because of their confidence getting so high that are really, really highly contested. The Beacons have done a better job putting a hand in the face at the three-point line, but Emmanuel's just hitting those shots anyway.
You know, you said 66% from 3. You were just being prophetic. They're now at 66.7%, 10 of 15. Davidson had a steal, and Charles Mitchell fouls him at midcourt, looking to win one back. It's the second foul on Mitchell, and just the second on the Beacons in this half.
Well, and that's going to happen. That's a frustration foul. The Beacons trying to make something out of nothing. The double team from Nunez and Mitchell, the pair of former New Mission players. I mean, right now, UMass Boston hasn't been in this situation all season here at home. They've dominated at home, and this is a frustrating feeling, especially because you know that Coach Harris said before this game, guys, this is a guy that I'm friends with, that I really want to beat. Help me out here a little bit, and they haven't been able to do that.
This is a deep one from Tamboro. That's the team heat check right there. Took that from NBA range.
Yeah, well behind the three-point line.
17-point lead for Emmanuel off an empty possession. Beacons get it into Nunez. Hook shot, he's fouled. Foul goes on David Albanese, his first. Kevin Nunez has been the best Beacon on offense in this second half.
Well, we've seen very little from Michael Boyd. Alex Sanchez hasn't appeared here in the second half, so it's been the Nunez show. He's also been one of the Beacons' better free throw shooters.
Even so, 4 of 7 from the free throw line today.
Maybe I should say one of the higher volume free throw shooters.
And now 5 of 8, that's 9 for Nunez. Beacons 10 of 20 from the free throw line today.
And it's just a recurring nightmare for this Beacons team and their coaching staff because all these guys can shoot. They're capable of hitting threes. They're capable of making contested shots, but for whatever reason, they just have been very poor from the free throw line. Team that last season was easily a dozen points higher from the free throw line and still was one of the poor free throw shooting teams in the conference.
Nunez splits a pair against the Beacons, dip below 500. Tamboro, open space, and he nails it. That's the 11th 3 for Emmanuel. Largest lead today, up 19.
Well, the double team trying to force the trap, get the turnover, but once the ball's released, help's got to come. You have to recognize Tamboro's a great three-point shooter, one of the better scorers on the team. You have to have at least someone flying out at him trying to make it a more difficult shot. You and I could probably hit a 3 if we have that much time in the corner.
You're giving me a little bit too much credit.
That's why I said you and I. We both get the look. Well, one of us might hit it.
Maybe. There's Charlie Mitchell at the free throw line after drawing a foul. Mitchell has been really good and aggressive so far today. Now the referees are going to come together here. 2 shots for the Beacons after Anthony Davidson's first foul.
Well, either way, it was going to be shots to the Beacons because that was the 7th team foul. We haven't even gone 7 minutes into the half.
Yep. Decided it's a shooting foul, not a foul on the floor, so instead of a 1-and-1, 2 for Mitchell, who's 1 for 2 from the line today, 17 for 27, now 18 for 28 on the season.
And you know that if he hits this next one, the Beacons are going to be in their full court pressure, trying to force some turnovers. Manuel's done a really nice job protecting the ball.
Mitchell puts them both through, so the Beacons climb their way back into within 17. Charlie Mitchell exits. UMass Boston puts the pressure on, and Mitchell's banged up.
Yeah, took a hard fall there on that play, and he's down over by the Beacon sideline.
So he comes out of the game. Beacon pressure. Oh, Hill nearly had the interception. Instead, he commits his 3rd foul.
The old pass interference call where the cornerback gets there a little bit early, in this case a little bit late, and it's unfortunate because the Beacons have had a couple plays where they've read the pass. They've just been a little bit late getting there. The ball's gone through their hands.
Hill will stay in the game with 3 fouls. It's crucial for him that in the press he plays aggressively, but now without committing a foul. Otherwise, he'd be forced out of the game again. Tamboro driving, draws the blocking foul. Free throws coming. Foul on Sanchez. That's his first.
Well, Sanchez was in between on that play. His feet might have been inside the circle, but also kind of hesitated, and his momentum was taking him backwards. You have to make the decision quickly and then commit to it. I think Sanchez was in between there.
Now Joe Tamburo to the free throw line for the first time today. Emmanuel is 6 for 8 on the season. On the game. Be a very low total of free throws for the season. 16 points now for Tamburo after he makes the first. He's hit 3 3-pointers today. And he's found creative ways to score inside as well. A couple nice layups, including a nifty reverse. Tamburo makes them both. Again, it's a 19-point lead, matching the largest today for the Saints.
Just impressive what Lawson has done. I mean, a 3-win team already, you're looking at probably your 7th win heading into the break. And they're going to be a dangerous team in that conference because a lot of those teams, you have some first-year teams in St. Joseph's, Connecticut. You don't have more than 1 or 2 dominant teams in the GNAC this year.
Davidson picked clean. Charles Mitchell got him. Now Mitchell to the rim. He's fouled. Called on the floor means a 1-and-1 for Charles Mitchell, the sophomore from here in Boston. Mitchell coming off a Little East All-Rookie Team year. He scored 15.5 points a game, averaged 4.5 rebounds, nearly 2 steals a game. This year, the steals numbers are up. He's averaging almost 2.5 steals a game. Points and rebounds down. He's averaging 10.5 points, 3.8 rebounds. And he's getting the same shots, just struggling to convert this year. Came in shooting 28%. And as rough as it can be sometimes when you're in a shooting slump, at the end of the day, it's called basketball because no matter what else you do, you got to get the ball into that 10-foot high basket.
And it's tough. He started this season, I think he was 1 for 11 in a win over Bridgewater State. Obviously happy about the win, but not the way you want to get your sophomore campaign out to. And it's been a lot of similar looks to a season ago that just haven't fallen. Yep. Beacon's biggest struggle this year is that they're missing some open looks. It hasn't been their defense, which obviously they're not going to be happy with the effort today. It's just been not hitting the free throws, which are gimme shots, and then not hitting some layups and wide open threes that have fallen for those particular players in the past.
Just 8 to shoot. Riddick whirling dervish. Davidson's fouled. Emmett Riddick does all the hard work, and Anthony Davidson is rewarded with 2 free throws.
Emmett Riddick is one of those guys who have all the tools in their bag, and if he wasn't 5'11", he'd be playing for one of the other schools in Boston that's a little bit better known. One of the Beanpot schools, if you're talking hockey. He's a really, really talented player. I mean, we've seen him score at every single level offensively. He's got a good handle. He's unselfish. That was a beautiful play, and realistically, the Beacons were just completely out of rotation there as they had to get the foul.
Probably didn't help Riddick that he played at one of the smaller schools in Connecticut, playing at the Class M level, which is the second smallest level at Middletown High School. Though he did help them to a state final at Mohegan Sun. Alex Sanchez scores 2. You just don't get as many eyeballs on you when you play at one of those smaller schools.
Yeah, real diamond in the rough. And then you see a player who's actually slightly smaller, Alex Sanchez. It's another quality player.
17-point lead, but dwindling for Emmanuel College. The Beacons are on a run. Here's Jabaris Hill, another open end-to-end bucket. Both his baskets today have come on 75-foot scampers.
Z. Lou into the game, a redshirt freshman who missed his entire freshman year with a foot injury. Typically a guy who doesn't see a ton of rotation minutes, but out there with 4 of the more regular players for UMass Boston. He made the mistake there, didn't get over in time, and then gives the fouls as the Beacons were trying to trap.
Lou's foul stops play. 11:23 to go. Beacons trying to claw back into it. They've scored 4 in a row. It's a 15-point lead for Emmanuel here on the Beacons Broadcast Network.
Cheer for the stumbles. The he should have had that. And the tears that linger. For in those moments, greatness lies. There, you will find the provoked, the determined, the unified. It's in those moments that champions are born.
I did receive a non-athletic scholarship upon entering school.
I got the presidential scholarship, which was huge for me.
I think there's more opportunities for academic scholarships in Division III.
I did receive academic scholarships. Just being involved on campus, being a leader, all those things combined kind of get me recognized. It's a great experience for me.
Lead for Emmanuel is 15, 64-49. Emmanuel has made 11 three-pointers. They've knocked down close to 60% of their shots. Beacons were down by as much as 19. They've fought back to get within 15. Inside, Riddick lays it in for 2, and he scored 20. Just slithered in between the defense and beat Hill to the rim.
Yeah, really nice take there by Riddick. And the Beacons, the fouls are starting to catch up to them. They've already committed 5 versus 8 for Emmanuel. You don't want to be forced to foul this Saints team with their 70+% free throw shooting.
It's an important 3 for the Beacons. Pulls them within 14, and it was Sanchez once again. He scored 11 today. That's almost double his season average. Get a couple of those to fall, and you grab yourself a chance to get back into this game. Bigger issue, though, again, is going to come on that other end of the floor. Beacons have had really no luck at all at slowing down Emmanuel.
Emmanuel is shooting 57% in halftime, and we said the Beacons would have no chance to come back if they couldn't change that number. Emmanuel's shooting 58% now for the game, so they're actually shooting better here in the second half, although the live stats are a little bit behind.
Yeah, well, if anything, I think that number's gotten even higher. They're up to 12 three-pointers made, plus a couple easy layups inside. 14-point lead for Emmanuel. Again, the one thing that the Beacons have had some success with defensively is forcing turnovers. UMass Boston's forced 14 of those, but no luck in slowing things down from the outside. Numbers 60.5% from the floor, and again 11 of 17 from 3. That's 64.7%.
That's tough to do if you're wide open in the gym, just shooting from behind the arc, getting fed by your teammates. And Emmanuel's doing it with some hands in their face, the Beacon running at them. They're just putting on an offensive clinic.
Emmanuel breaks the pressure. They haven't had all that much difficulty with the Beacon press yet today. One thing it does do is limit the amount of clock for Emmanuel to work with on offense. Here's Isaiah Ruffin back on the floor with 3 fouls. Just 5 to shoot. Davidson with 3. Attacking Charles Mitchell. Didn't draw rim. And a rebounding foul goes.
Against the Beacons.
Is it on the Beacons? It is. No, it is on Andrew Roberts. That is his 4th foul for Emmanuel. So give it back to UMass Boston. A push on Roberts.
I was convinced watching the contact on the far side they were going to call the Beacons as Roberts caught the ball and then put it up. But apparently there was a push off ahead of that. If not for all of these offensive fouls and loose ball fouls called against Emmanuel, this game could be a 20 to 25 point game. Most of their fouls have come on the offensive end, and they're going to call that a loose ball foul, so it will result in the Beacons shooting free throws.
Yeah, Z. Lou will shoot him out of Pope John, the 23rd High School, Boston local. Mentioned hasn't played a ton this year, but gets a chance to shoot the Beacons to within 12. And hey, if he can knock down a couple of free throws, maybe start to earn himself some more minutes. Nope.
Not a good looking free throw stroke. Hasn't had that many looks, but I know he's shooting below 50% on the year.
Yeah, Beacons as a team are below 50% today as Boyd reaches in and fouls Davidson. That is the 8th foul on the Beacons, so a 1-and-1 opportunity for Anthony Davidson.
I mean, this is getting ugly because while UMass Boston is shooting poorly from the free throw line, we're about to see this Emmanuel team head to the line for the rest of this game, and they have done a nice job on their own attempts.
Yeah, 8 of 10 and now 9 of 11. Davidson makes another. He scored 5. Again, he's out of Annapolis, Maryland. Can't imagine it was the happiest week down in Annapolis this week, the home of the Naval Academy, after Navy lost to Army for the 3rd consecutive year.
Well, Annapolis, Maryland is a pretty gorgeous place. It's a little bit warmer than West Point this time of year, so I'm sure they were okay, even though they would have loved to have won yet another game in that rivalry.
2 really gorgeous campuses. Alex Sanchez on the kick out. Boyd hits a 3. That's his 2nd. He scored 12, and it pulls the Beacons within 12, as close as they've been since the early Emmanuel run this half.
But just the Beacons 4-3 compared to 11 for Emmanuel.
And Boyd has 2 of the 4 for the Beacons. And now a steal. Good hands from Jabaris Hill. Looking to go coast to coast again. An offensive foul, according to the referee on the far side. The referee on the near side might have disagreed, but they'll give way to the official on the far sideline, and that's a 4th foul on Hill.
That is a terrible call. No offense to the referee, but the player who took that charge, I believe it was Davidson. Davidson was falling backwards before the contact was ever made, trying to get the call against Hill, and the referee bought it.
Beacons get a steal from Charles Mitchell. And now they'll back things out. That's a 4th foul on Hill, who stays in the game, takes the feed, and he's stripped. Ball out off Emmanuel.
And yes, it's a 12-point game, but a call like that, I mean, you're talking about the 4th foul, a potential and one since he hit it, is so big in terms of momentum. This fan base for the Beacons has been pretty quiet all game because they've been behind. Could have sparked the crowd a little bit, a chance to get to within single digits. That's a huge call in the course of this game. With 10 minutes left, this game's not quite over.
Mitchell left it short on a 3. Chris Foley, the rebound. I agree with you that it looked like Davidson was moving, but playing devil's advocate here, it also looked like he knew exactly what was coming from Jabaris Hill, who has gotten maybe a little bit predictable once he takes the ball in the full court like that.
100%. Jabaris had his head down. I mean, the freshman needs to be better on that, but the contact wasn't there because Jabaris avoided it. That's my issue. The defender went down before the contact ever came. He anticipated contact and didn't really get it.
There's Hill on the putback, didn't go. Another try, +1. After Davidson had scored on one end, Jabaris Hill, a chance for a 3-point play.
So let's see if we can get you that play on the previous play right now before the free throw, and we'll see which side we maybe more agree with. Hill immediately puts his head down, and that's what allows Davidson to set up. But you see here, he's already falling backwards. You can see the backwards momentum. That, to me, is a dive in soccer.
Yeah, you're right. It wasn't that he was moving his feet. His feet were set, but
his momentum.
Yeah, he went backwards.
Anticipating that he was going to be fouled and draw the foul, which even if there is contact there, you shouldn't be able to draw that contact, and the referee got played a little bit.
Beacons now 13 of 27 from the line. So in a 12-point game, they've missed 14 free throws. Hill is 0 for 3.
I mean, even if the Beacons were shooting 10 to 15% better, this would be a 2, maybe 3 possession game.
Emmett Riddick traveled. The bugaboo today for Emmanuel has been turnovers. That's 17 Saints turnovers.
Shooting 60%, and yet they're allowing the Beacons back into the game because they're having these empty possessions without getting a shot up. And Z-Lou's done a nice job. This is a very hybrid-looking lineup for UMass Boston, but it's working.
Charles Mitchell to make it a 9-point game. It didn't go. The putback, Lou. He got it. First 2 today for Z-Lou.
This is a confidence booster for Z-Lou right now. It's pretty long. He's very athletic. Gives up a silly foul there, but starting to play a little bit better as he gets some real minutes.
Z-Lou's second foul is the 9th on the Beacons. 1-1, Joe Tamburo. Emmanuel is 10 of 14 from the free throw line today. That's actually below their season average. Tamburo is 2 for 2.
Yeah, Tamburo's a guy who is pretty automatic. It'd be surprising to see him miss either of those, which is where all those fouls from UMass Boston racking up hurt. And also, when Emmanuel fouls, Coach Lawson isn't going to be too upset with his group because he knows that the Beacons likely aren't going to hit both. They're certainly not going to hit 4 in a row.
Tamburo missed. Ruffin didn't stick it back. Beacons dodge a bullet. Heavy on the gas pedal, Charles Mitchell. He is a blur across midcourt.
Yeah, fortunate for him because he lost and was still able to get it back.
Boyd step back on Tamburo. Now Mitchell with 15, looking to use his speed against the taller Krista Foley. Got into trouble. Somehow it squirts away to Sanchez. Shot clock reset, and it shouldn't have, so the referee will stop play. There should probably be about 5 to 6 seconds left on the shot clock.
That's exactly what I was thinking. It shouldn't have been, and then they'll have the media timeout to figure it out. Shouldn't have been a shot clock violation. Emmanuel's claiming, that's certainly a shot clock violation, but there's probably somewhere between 4 and 7 seconds there. And that entire possession, it just seemed like Charles Mitchell was moving a little bit too quickly.
All right, time out on the floor. We'll take a quick break. Beacons down 19 at 1 point, are back within 11.
Psychology is about understanding the individual and understanding the mind. The main reason why I want to combine psychology and business degrees is because I want to understand the business decisions that are made. I'm Nurçin Çelebi. I'm from Turkey originally. I'm a senior at the 5-year BA to MBA program at UMass Boston. I think in management, the biggest mistake you can make is to not listen. So I want to be able to step into a company and say, here's what you're doing now, and here's how you can improve it. I moved here when I was 16 for high school. Moving from Turkey, it was a rough journey for me because when you don't really speak the language that well, and when you don't really fit in the crowd, it's very easy to disappear. But I decided.
With Seth Orensky, Bill Spalding here at the Clark Athletic Center campus of UMass Boston. Emmanuel led by 19 early this half on the back of 11 made three-pointers. UMass Boston has gotten back to within 11. Still 7:30 to go. Michael Boyd, step back three ball, he got it! As you said, the tougher the shot, the more likely it is to go in for Boyd.
And Champa was right in his face. That's a really big three off the dribble.
Beacons are within 8. Tamburo answers with a ridiculous shot.
An equally difficult finish, bouncing off of contact, and that's good offense on both ends.
Joe Tamburo has scored 20, so he and Riddick have combined for 40 of the Saints' 72. Hill slithers in, didn't draw the foul. Tried to draw contact on Ruffin. It would have been his 4th.
Yeah, it's a nice pass from Boyd, and now you see another foul by the Beacons well away from the basket. The coaching staff can't believe it, but
I think that's the right call.
I 100% agree. I think the frustration for UMass Boston is that they've committed so many fouls in the backcourt where the goal there isn't to necessarily create the steal. It's to take some time off the shot clock, maybe force Emmanuel to speed up a little bit. And now you have another guy who's looked pretty good at the free throw line.
Davidson is 6 for 8 today. He's been busy. Now 6 for 9. Both teams in the double bonus. That was Alex Sanchez's second foul. 72-62. Emmanuel looking to get to 7-3 on the year. Meanwhile, the Beacons are trying to move to 6-3 and 5-0 in the non-conference. This is Emmanuel's last game before the winter break. They won't play again until December 29th, when Emmanuel will head up to Maine and play at St. Joseph's College in the Catholic Charities Tournament. Meanwhile, UMass Boston has one more game before the break. They host Wentworth here on Friday.
If the Beacons were shooting at the same percentage as Emmanuel from the free throw line, just 69%, this would be a 6-point game versus a 13-point game. 11.
Hill scores, using his size advantage down low against Ruffin. It's a 9-point game once again.
Well, and you can see why Hill has been so important for UMass Boston. He's the big guy who can not only rebound, but score down low.
Davidson's bumped. Foul on Dayson Sinelli, and once again, Anthony Davidson is headed to the stripe, where he has already taken 10 free throws.
Yeah, that contact came down low, and the Beacons coaching staff upset with Sinelli. Came over a bit too aggressively. You don't even need to block that shot. If you can alter it a little bit, that's a difficult running layup.
Davidson now 8 for 11. He's been very busy at the free throw line throughout his entire freshman season. He gets there more than almost anybody on the Emmanuel roster, and you can see why. He's an aggressive penetrator trying to get to the rim.
Yeah, does a nice job of drawing contact. We saw it in that last play, a little bit of hip to hip, as he was still able to get a good look off. And now the Beacons' challenge gets a little bit harder because Riddick's back in the game, and he's been pretty much impossible to stop.
Davidson scored 11. He's the third Saints player into double figures. Boyd continues to make contested shots. 17 today for Michael Boyd.
Well, we're seeing the Little East Conference Rookie of the Year, Michael Boyd, which hasn't always been the case here in his sophomore season. This is the confidence that he showed when he led the Beacons late in the season to the number 3 seed.
He averaged 14.5 points last year. This season, 11.1 over the Beacons' first 8. Here's Davidson back at Sanchez, and Sanchez stays in front of him. Davidson chases down a sloppy pass, 3 to shoot. Into the corner, Riddick's wide open, and he missed it. A tip out off Boyd. That's a rare miss for Emmett Riddick, and that could have been a backbreaker late in the shot clock, 5:42 to go if he got it to go down.
I'm stunned that he didn't, and I'm a little bit surprised Michael Boyd wasn't called for going over the back there of Champa, who had a really nice box out. It was a poor pass from Davidson, actually hit the back of the legs of Charlie Mitchell, but that's how this game has gone. Manuel's just been able to execute and get a couple of those bounces to go their way.
Davidson slithers in off the screen, give the assist to Ruffin. 13 for Davidson, 11-point lead, a very well-executed inbound play.
Really well executed. Sanchez and Hill got tangled up, teammates, and they really weren't able, either of them, to get over to the body.
Sanchez, no. Sinelli, no. And Ruffin rips down another board. Ruffin in limited minutes has 12 rebounds.
And that's a little bit of a force there by Sinelli. He has 2 bodies to get through and just made it a little bit too easy for the opposition.
Ruffin might have been out of control. 4-on-2. Hill is hammered on a blocking foul. Crisafulli's 4th. Again, smart foul, though. Jabaris Hill is 0 for 3 from the free throw line today, 11 for 27 on the season.
It's a smart foul on any Beacon at this point. No Beacon has shown that they're going to be able to hit free throws consistently. Beacons are asking the referees to go over, was that a little bit over the top on the foul? I think realistically a big part of the contact there was you had Hill going downhill, a lot of momentum, and it looked worse than it was as he got pushed backwards.
You had 2 big guys, Hill 6'4", 205, Crisafulli 6'3", 200, combining at full strength. And it is just a blocking foul. So 2 free throws for Jabaris Hill. Beacons 13 for 27 as a team. Hill has contributed 3 misses, no makes to that cause.
And that's something that he's got to work on. He and Malik Lorquette, very talented players, but if the opposition can play a little bit of hack-a-shack, it's not going to help your team's cause, especially in a closer game than this. I mean, this game should be closer because of the Beacons' free throw ineptness, but this was a 2 or 3 point game. If I'm Emmanuel, I'm just fouling the Beacons' bigs constantly.
Well, there's a big first make for Jabaris Hill. So much of free throw shooting is confidence, and that'll certainly boost the confidence. 2 for 2, Jabaris Hill. I think that's only the second time we've seen a Beacon go 2 for 2 today. And again, you've made 15 trips to the free throw line for 29 free throws at this point. Riddick finds the trailer. Ruffin, no. Stickbacks there. Andrew Roberts crashing the glass.
But another great play by Riddick. You won't get credit with the assist because the initial shot was missed, but 3 Beacons had to step over trying to block the initial layup. That led the player who was trailing a wide open rebound and layup.
Boyd was feeling it but didn't get it to go from 3. Back to an 11-point lead for Emmanuel. Davidson's hesitation doesn't go. 2-on-2. Charlie Mitchell all the way to the tin. He's fouled. It's the first today on Emmett Riddick. Free throws for Mitchell, looking to keep the Beacons within striking distance. 4:21 to go, and we'll get a timeout.
I think they're going to extend it to a media as well, our last media of the contest.
Yep, it will be. 4:21 to go. Beacons down 11. Free throws coming for UMass Boston when we return to the Clark Athletic Center. Important free throws out of the timeout for Charlie Mitchell. We have 4:21 to go. UMass Boston trailing Emmanuel by 11. They were down by as much as 19. Mitchell makes the free throw. That's 3 in a row for the Beacons, so they've gone from 13 to 27 to 16 for 30. It's an improvement, baby steps. And on cue, there's a miss. Good rebound from Riddick. 10-point lead for the Saints.
Even with the miss, Charlie's 5 of 7, which for a Beacon is a very good ratio this season.
Other thing we told you to watch coming in was the rebounding battle. Two very good rebounding teams, both averaging plus 11 on the season. Today it's Emmanuel plus 3 as Riddick is headed to the free throw line. He's so shifty and hard to stay in front of.
Yeah, he's been the most impressive player today on the floor for Emmanuel. The one thing I will say for UMass Boston is, yes, they're losing the battle on the boards. They do have an 11-4 edge in second chance points, which they've been so good on the glass all season. They haven't allowed Emmanuel that many looks, but also Emmanuel hasn't missed as many shots as the Beacon, which has been a part of it.
It's easier to score second chance points when you're not shooting 56.3% like Emmanuel is. Riddick makes the free throw. Emmanuel is 15 for 21 there. So even though they've taken 10 less free throws and now 9 less free throws, they've made the same amount of free throws as the Beacons. Riddick has scored 22 points. Could have been an advantage for UMass Boston today, but it's been neutralized.
Yeah, and that's got to be the big focus in those couple weeks over break for UMass Boston, whether you're practicing or not. You got to get into the gym and you got to put up hundreds of free throws. Be a little bit more consistent with your stroke. Give yourself the confidence that you can hit it, because that cost the Beacons today.
Here's Charles Mitchell back out for Boyd. Beacons need quick buckets, down 12. Boyd got bumped. Both teams in the double bonus. 2 free throws coming from Michael Boyd, who statistically is one of the Beacons' best free throw shooters. This season he is 16 for 23. Surprisingly, he has not taken a free throw today. Does have 17 points.
Most of his shots are those contested threes and long twos.
And he misses. You kind of need every one to go at this point when you're down 12.
Yeah, UMass Boston, we said it off air. I kind of called this game a little bit earlier than I should have, because the Beacons certainly have shown that they could come back in this game, but they needed a few more things to go their way, and it was free throw shooting. It was also Emmanuel to cool down a little bit earlier in this game and just to take advantage of more of their opportunities.
11-point Emmanuel lead after Boyd goes 1 for 2. Emmanuel off until December 29th after this one. Beacons still have one more game before the break. They'll play on Friday against Wentworth. Ruffin, clean lane. Good sidestep around Hill. Isaiah Ruffin with a big 2 to put Emmanuel up 13.
And you know the Beacons are going to be put through the ringer these next 2 days as Jason Harris tries to get his team playing at a higher level against the Wentworth team that just lost to Emmanuel by 20.
It's a long 2 for Boyd and an air ball.
Yeah, he forced that one a little bit. He was fading away, just didn't get enough behind it.
If you're Emmanuel here for the first time all game, you'll look to kind of take some of the air out of the ball.
Well, they've been pretty good executing with under 10 seconds on the shot clock, so it won't really make it more difficult on them.
Joe Tamboro twirling, no. Roberts missed. Here's Tamboro underneath the tin. He dribbled it on the end line. Well, despite that not falling, it's been a heck of a game for Tamboro. Off the bench, he has scored 20.
I'm very interested to see how Emmanuel does in the GNAC. It's a weird conference schedule in that they don't play any conference games first semester, which is typical. The UMass and other conference like that. But then they play all 13 games in a row against conference opponents before they head into the GNAC tournament as the Beacons are called for yet another charge.
It's a charging foul on UMass Boston Z. Lou. Give it back to Emmanuel. Yeah, interestingly, you mentioned those first 2 games against conference opponents, but part of the Catholic Charities tournament, so they won't count as conference games against Regis College and St. Joseph's College up in Standish, Maine. Then it's conference games the rest of the way starting January 6th. Oh, Beacon steal from Lou, and a layup rolls in. Mitchell, Charlie Mitchell into double figures with a 10-point outburst. Z. Lou's maybe earned himself some more minutes. He's played well in this second half.
Well, Z. Lou has taken some of those minutes you typically see out of Lorquette or even Julius Goins, and he's earned it. He's played well. As Emmanuel, another turnover. That's really been their biggest bugaboo today for Danny Lawson's squad.
That's turnover number 20. Beacons are not dying here. They're playing hard down the stretch within 11.
Well, that's always been Jason Harris' team's MO. That UMass Boston, even when they're down 20 early, which hasn't happened too often under Coach Harris, they've never given up. They continue to push. And this team, they have a ton of talent. It's just still figuring out that right connection, and there's another offensive foul.
And it's Dason Sinelli going into Isaiah Ruffin. Minute 50 to go, 11-point lead for Emmanuel.
And that was tough because Sinelli slipped, looked like on a little bit of the paint as he went into the paint there, and it allowed the defender to go down.
Charlie Mitchell nearly had the steal. Roberts fights through it. Oh, and then Charlie Mitchell high into Emmett Riddick to send Riddick to the free throw line twice more. Mentioned Riddick played at one of the smaller schools in Connecticut, Middletown High School. They may be small, but they are known for having a really strong sports program, consistent state finalists in football and basketball. Basketball state finals down in Connecticut, a whole lot of fun. They play at the Mohegan Sun Arena. They play all 5 finals over the course of 2 days, all 5 boys finals and all 5 girls finals. So you have 10 games over 2 days as Riddick goes 1 for 2 here. You get some huge crowds as well.
Well, and I imagine it's probably pretty big on both the boys and the girls' side.
Yeah, I heard that women's basketball, girls' basketball, pretty big in Connecticut.
Yeah, the University of Hartford, I know, has had a good program for a while.
Sinelli didn't get it to go, and that should about put it away as Emmanuel's Joe Tamburo smartly calls a timeout with Davidson double-teamed. 85 seconds to go, and the Saints up 12. Got a team that is totally different than what you saw last year. 3-22 last season. Danny Lawson has done a great job just really infusing a new life to this program. Working 2 jobs with Emmanuel, along with coaching the basketball team. He's also now an assistant athletic director for Emmanuel College and has made some instant impacts there.
Well, and I'm sure that made the job a little bit more appealing, going to a program that hadn't been so successful. Having that other title probably helped a little bit with the money as well. But this guy's only won. I mean, we talked about it. LIU Brooklyn, he came right at the beginning of that Perry era where they were really successful, winning a lot of championships. Then he was at Endicott. He had a lot of success as a player at Bentley. Sometimes that really helps when a coach recognizes exactly what to take from all these winning programs. And Emmanuel had the talent. I mean, a lot of these guys were on the team a season ago.
Heck, even his year with the Celtics as an assistant video assistant won an NBA championship. He has an NBA Finals ring. Down to the final 15 on the shot clock. Davidson finishes in tight. Another impressive young player, 14 for the freshman.
But that was a nice job by Sinelli to get over there, contest the shot without fouling. Emmanuel's just hit a lot of really difficult shots.
Sanchez follows his miss. He's fouled. Throw it on Davidson. 2 free throws coming for Alex Sanchez. Well, 2 key runs in this game really will be what ends up providing the winning margin. An 18-6 start to this game for Emmanuel. And then early in the second half, turning an 11-point lead into a 19-point lead on the back of 3 3-pointers in that stretch. And 11 threes overall today for Emmanuel. Those 2 surges enough to build the arm's length lead the Beacons haven't been able to overcome.
And there was an even smaller surge late in that first half, and the Beacons cut it to 2, and then Emmanuel was able to stretch it out to 11 at halftime. This game has been even for large parts of the contest, but those 3 big runs, the Beacons have never made a run of more than 6 or 7 points in a row.
Yeah, probably 30 minutes of even basketball, but it's the 10 minutes of uneven basketball that will send Emmanuel to the victory as Joe Tamburo gets a chance to add a couple more points at the line. And I know it sounds like we're beating a dead horse here, but Beacons will once again be left wondering what could have been with free throws. They're 17 of 34. Emmanuel's 17 of 24 with 2 more coming for Tamburo. And the first is good.
UMass Boston has done a better job defensively in the second half. Emmanuel going from 57% in the first half down to 55.8% for the game, which doesn't sound all that good, but when Emmanuel was shooting 60% midway through this half, that shows some real improvement. I think the Beacons are actually going to see a fair amount of things they did well in this game on tape. It's just they were out executed, and there was too many fouls like that. You can't foul Davidson, no matter what point of the game it is, in a situation like that where you have no chance of getting the steal, and you have to know how good of a free throw shooter and a free throw shooting team Emmanuel is.
Charlie Mitchell is fouled out. Fouls out with 10 points. And the Beacons will bring in Matt Montenario.
Another one of their newcomers who hasn't seen a ton of minutes. Pretty talented ball handler.
You know, it's going to grind Jason Harris's gears on this last possession was the offensive rebound off the missed free throw. So as hard as the Beacons have played down the stretch, that'll leave a sour taste in his mouth as Davidson hits another free throw.
Well, and the Beacons elected to go small, and that got them back into the game a little bit, but it also hurt them on the boards. They barely used Malik Lurquette, if at all, here in the second half. They definitely didn't use Mark Monroe here in the second half, and they took away some of their better rebounders trying to speed up Emmanuel, but it's cost them on the boards.
Davidson 11 of 14 from the line today. Long three for Charles Mitchell off the mark. The shot clock is off. Emmanuel has a chance to dribble it out, and instead Mitchell forces the turnover. Sanchez fouled. A chance for the Beacons to draw a little bit closer after the Charles Mitchell forced turnover. 2 more free throws for Alex Sanchez, who has scored 12 points today, 5 of 12 shooting, 1 of 3 from 3, and 1 of 2 from the free throw line.
Well, it's a chance for Alex, one of the Beacons' better free throw shooters, to put them over 50% for the game. Not a mark that they're really happy about, but
they'll end up being right around their season average, which was 54.7% coming in. Beacons 18 of 35, now 19 of 36. Sanchez up to 6, make it a 7 for 10 on the season.
And it's just one of those things that the only positive if you're UMass Boston is you can improve upon that within the season. Just have to really work hard over winter break, taking extra shots so that they can do better, especially in closer games.
Final couple of seconds tick away. 11 three-pointers lead the way for Emmanuel. An 89-75 win over UMass Boston. We'll step aside when we return. Seth Orensky will be down to interview UMass Boston head coach Jason Harris.
I'm Elizabeth Clavin, sophomore business management major from Edina, Minnesota. I love being a part of this volleyball team. Volleyball is what brought me to UMass Boston. I looked at our recruiting website one last time and saw UMass Boston on it, came out for a visit the next week, and it kind of hit all the boxes that I was looking for. In a good city, good academic school, good volleyball program. It had everything I wanted. Although it was far away from home, I knew this is where I wanted to be. Winning 6 back-to-back LEC titles is really a dynasty, I think, and Terry has really focused hard on recruiting and building this dynasty and continuing to build a program that can continue to win championships, and it's really lucky to be a part of something this great. Last year I was the Little East Conference Defensive Player of the Year, All-Conference second team, NCAA Regional MVP of the regional tournament, ABC All-Region Honorable Mention, and New England Women's Volleyball Association All-Rookie Team and Honorable Mention. I think my favorite game would have to be playing in the regional championship last year. We played against a really good Williams team, and I think that match, we started off a little shaky and lost the first set. We've lost in the whole playoff season, and I think that kind of shook us a little bit. We came back firing, and we're ready to go those next couple games.
UMass is very public service focused, and it piqued my interest, and I started doing more research on it.
Joined by head coach Jason Harris. Coach, obviously not the result that you were looking for. Did you see a little bit more of the heart and maybe the hustle that you were hoping to see after you guys gave up a 57% mark in that first half?
Not really, man. No, they beat us in every aspect tonight, including energy and effort. And you know, we got some guys that it's got to mean more. It's a program issue right now. You know, that's a good win for those guys. Danny does a really good job with them, but we got to fix us. And I think it starts with the guys that are playing 20 minutes a night, 25 plus minutes a night. Those are the guys that are getting most of the cracks, and they got to do a better job setting the tone, and I got to do a better job of setting the tone. It's unacceptable.
One of the guys who's not as much in your rotation, saw a lot of minutes in the second half, Zilu, seemed to bring a lot of energy, a little bit more of that hustle that maybe you were looking for. Did he maybe earn himself a little bit more playing time on Friday or in the future?
Yeah, I mean, looking at it now, I would look at maybe say Z starts. I mean, Z's one of the kids that plays hard every day, you know, and I think we're going to use this last couple days as a chance to kind of grade our program and moving forward into the second semester. A lot of stuff's got to change. You know, I don't care what you did last year because obviously, you know, you can't rest on those laurels. We got a lot of guys thinking what they did will keep them here, and it's not the case, and so it's not acceptable. It's a bad loss for us.
Biggest thing that you need to see out of your team on Friday against a Wentworth team that
it's competitive, like it's trying, it's trying. We haven't played hard for 40 minutes yet this year. And we got to figure that out because it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. And it's effort. And, you know, in college, I don't think effort should be something you're coaching, and unfortunately it's something that we got to coach every day. And this is probably one of my more talented teams, but got to coach effort harder, I guess.
Thanks for your time and your honesty. We'll see you back here on Friday night in the Beacons' final game before break. Guys?
All right, Seth, thank you very much. Yeah, tough one for the Beacons, and it'll be interesting to see how and what their starting lineup looks like when they come back out again on Friday. We'll take a quick break, first we'll take a look in at the highlights today as the Beacons fall 89-75. Here are today's highlights. Beacons to 41%. It's your key difference early on. Good move from Kevin Nunez and an early bucket.
A little bit too much on that shot. Manuel just does a great job of getting a hand in front of every Beacon shooter.
There's the 7th.
The Beacons have some smaller guards who can be back down on the block.
Fox steps out for 3. Three-pointer this season. So Fox in the low with some uncharacteristic shots from downtown. Charlie Mitchell and 1. Fast ball movement leads to a Riddick 3.
Really nice touch. It just fell off the front of the rim.
Beacons inside another today as well. Here's Albanese, who just entered 2 to shoot. Riddick got it again. Nunez splits a pair against the Beacons dip below 500. Tamboro, open space. Playing at the Class M level, which is the second smallest level at Middletown High School. Though he did help them to a state dwindling for Emmanuel College. The Beacons are on a run. Here's Jabaris Hill, another open end-to-end bucket. Inside Riddick. Lays it in for 2, and he scored 20.
Yeah, really nice take there by Riddick. And the Beacons, the fouls are starting to catch up to them. They've already committed 5 versus 8 for Emmanuel. You don't want to be forced to...
Alex Sanchez on the kick out. Boyd hits a 3. That's a 4 for the Beacons. And now a steal. Good hands from Jabaris Hill. Looking to go coast to coast again. An offensive
issue. The defender went down before the contact ever came. He anticipated contact and didn't really get it.
There's Hill on the putback. Didn't go. Another try, +1. Charles Mitchell to make it a 9-point game. It didn't go. The putback, Lou. 11. Still 7:30 to go. Michael Boyd, step back 3 ball. He got it.
Dribble.
Beacons are within 8. Tamburo answers with a ridiculous shot against Wentworth. Ruffin, clean lane. Good sidestep. Standish, Maine. Then it's conference games the rest of the way starting January 6th. Oh, Beacon steal from Lou, and a layup rolls in. Mitchell, Charlie. So those are the highlights from today. A lot of highlights for Emmanuel, particularly shooting the ball from downtown with their 11 three-pointers. Let's take a look at the overall statistics, and what really has to jump out at you is just how well Emmanuel shot the ball. 56% from the floor, and out of this world, 61% from 3, 11 of 18 from downtown.
Yeah, I mean, even in that second half when they shot a little bit worse, they were still at 54%. This is an Emmanuel team that Coach Harris said it was a bad loss, and he might still think it's a bad loss next week, but I think you have to give credit to Emmanuel. This is a team that I'd be very surprised if they weren't hosting a conference tournament game come February or March. I don't think they're going to win it because Albertus Magnus is consistently very good in the GNAC, but they showed a lot of promising things in every portion of the game. Obviously, those 22 turnovers, they're not going to be happy about that, but you got to give the Beacons some credit. Their defense did pick it up in the second half. It just wasn't enough to stop a team that put on a bit of an offensive clinic.
And the other concerning number for UMass Boston, right, their season average 54% from the free throw line. You're going to have to get that turned around.
Yeah, but also that 26% mark from 3.
Yep.
That's got to improve as well. Obviously, the free throw percentage is popping out, but the Beacons didn't rely on the 3 last year, but it was certainly a big part of their game. You can't be successful shooting a lot of 3s if you're shooting below 30 on the season, and the Beacons finished 1% below their season average. Those are both disconcerting marks, and they're both marks that I think could improve second semester without doing too much to change, just a little bit of extra work in the gym.
All right, let's talk individual leaders. We'll be able to show you the top 2 scorers for Emmanuel, Emmett Riddick and Joe Tamburo. They combined for 44 points. Got to throw Anthony Davidson in there as well, though. He also scored 17, so that trio scored 61 of Emmanuel's 89.
Yeah, and realistically, Davidson took advantage of the Beacons' propensity for fouling, doing a really nice job. Ruffin had a huge game on the boards with 16. Yep. Michael Boyd and Alex Sanchez, most of that damage came in the first half. In the second half, Jabaris Hill was able to create a little bit, Charlie Mitchell, but just not enough consistent scoring for UMass Boston, which was the issue against Weston the other day. But I think the defense was a little bit more disconcerting for UMass Boston. And again, Emmanuel has now put up 80-plus points in 7 straight games.
All right, so we keep talking about after winter break, but before winter break, Beacons have one more game to go as we look ahead. Beacons will take on Wentworth in their final game of 2018.
And as weird as it sounds, it's kind of a must-win if you're UMass Boston, if you don't want to run a lot as soon as you get back from break, but also this team started the year 4-0. To go into break 5-5 would be really disappointing for as much talent is on this team. And then you factor in Wentworth just lost by 20 to Emmanuel. It's a game the Beacons have to have, especially on their home court.
All right, let's take a look at the production crew, putting in a lot of hard work once again here to make this Beacons Broadcast Network production really work. The producer today was Gigi Braga, who was directing along with Allie Crawford, Alyssa Flegel on the instant replay, along with Seth Orensky. I was Bill Spalding on the play-by-play, and our camera crew, hardworking as always, Mike Mulligan, Stevie Bryant, Julia Nolan, and Alyssa Tolley. Once again, your final score here at the Clark Athletic Center: Emmanuel College 89, UMass Boston 75. The Saints move to 7-3. The Beacons fall to 5-4. For our entire crew, my partner Seth Orensky, Bill Spalding saying so long from the Clark Athletic Center.